Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, and it is 5:31 p.m.
Flanagan.
Here.
Kay. Here. King.
Here.
McKinney. Here. North.
Yeah, here.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second. Flanagan.
Yes.
Kay. Yes. King. Yes. McHugh.
Yes.
North.
Yes. Great. Welcome, Katie. You want to do an introduction?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do quick.
Yeah.
So we kind of move things around, and I let Katie go first tonight, just based on some other family things she has going on, but, Katie's worked with us in marketing since November, something like that, way, setting things up and stuff like that, and she, has a presentation to share, and I think she'll share more than what maybe you read on there too, probably. I know she will, but, it's kind of an overview of what's going on, so.
Yeah, thank you for all the work that you've done.
My pleasure. It's been our pleasure to work with the school district for so long, even through COVID. That was when we did some pictures originally back in the day. So we've been hanging around the edges of Clear Creek School District and the Clear Creek School District Foundation. And we're just so grateful for the partnership. Great.
Just give me 1 second.
Take your time. I'll just say, I'm Katie Winter. I'm a native New Yorker, but our family moved to Colorado and didn't tell anyone else about this. Where my husband's from Long Island. I'm from central New York, an area closer to Adirondack Park, which is very similar. So area drives like this feel like home. I'm the mother of 2 public school students. My boys are enrolled in our local community school. I have a senior who's graduating on Thursday. It's his 18th birthday today, so this is the anniversary of my motherhood. And then I have a freshman also at the same local school. I do branding, marketing, and communications work, and I also do some political work out of my home in Arvada, Colorado. I'm a single member LLC. My partner, her name is Sarah Flanagan Silcott. She's a mom in the DPS school district. So I also have a background in public education or private college admissions and recruiting. I worked, before we moved to Colorado, I worked for private and public universities in the Metro Tri-State New York region. I did admissions, I did recruitment, I did academic advising, I managed a residence hall at NYU, I worked at a community college in Jersey City, New Jersey. So that's really my heart and soul is helping kids find their place and space in this world, whether it be at a college or at a technical university or out in the world. So it's been really a pleasure to work with this great little school district for so long and helping you to make sure you're showcasing the best of yourself in an environment where parents and guardians have so much choice. We want to make sure that the choice is clearly Clear Creek. So I'll just dive in. This is a review and a briefing of the marketing guidelines and information that was put out to us. Mitch came to us and said that the board had some specific direction. So we took your direction and we tailored a totally custom campaign, digital only. We know for a fact that every student that comes into the Clear Creek district is about $10,000 of revenue. That is coming in. So we are unabashed and unafraid to say that we were absolutely marketing to try to take students away from other districts and have them come here. Because if they were looking to go anywhere else but Clear Creek, we wanted them to know what they were passing up and missing. Therefore, our ads focused on anything on a device. So we focused our targeting on the Google, YouTube, which is considered TV. I know that's a weird thing, but there's a lot of cord cutters out there. So we did do a completely digital only presence. We had to, in order to do that, we had to give people a place to go. So we're going to go through the custom landing pages we made. We had to build out some of your current framework, and then we had in some additional content. And then also for that, it's important to note that we use completely evergreen content. What that means is that the content and the pictures can be used over and over and over again. We use photos we already had from photo shoots of the past. We use video from video of the past that we had already done for the district. So we really tried to be incredibly efficient with the budget investment we were given to reuse content that we could, but still making it look fresh and new so no one knew the difference. Please feel free to stop me at any time if there's any questions or if I go too fast. I know I'm from New York and I try really hard to speak slowly, but it doesn't always work. So in the first thing we want to make sure is that we're grounded in the population that we are looking to bring in. So we took a look at the Clear Creek County. We took a look at your demographics of your community. And then of course, we want to be grounded in the demographics of the school district. Again, we're looking at what is our current population. Many people look to peer norm. So they're looking for a place where they have their special interests, their niche opportunities, but then also Where am I gonna feel comfortable? We know that many of the choices in school of choice are driven by parents, guardians. The students can be involved in the process, but we wanted to take a look at the community values, the geography. We wanted to make sure that we grounded the campaign in truly what felt authentic and original to the Clear Creek community and your current student population. Next. So again, we took a look at, we wanted to know, well, what is the actual opportunity? Oh, that slide got a little messed up, I'm sorry. We wanted to make sure we knew how many residents we had in our communities. We had an approximation of about 9,000, just over 9,000 residents, give or take. And we recognized ourselves that we had about 660 enrolled students. And we really wanted to stay grounded in that when we looked at the results of some of the clicks that we were getting and some of the results from our campaign, because Tom and I, Superintendent Meyer and I would talk often, and he would say, is it working? And I would say, well, if people are clicking, that's one step, but are they coming to visit, see it, tour it, touch it? So yes, in general, we would say we were getting people to, they were seeing our ads and they were clicking on our ads. And it's mostly for us fairly impressive that we had the number of clicks that we had for the amount of limited budget we spent, and considering the competitive environment that you guys are in when you're looking at your competing school districts, including my own Jeffco School District. So let's take a look at what we actually were putting out there. This is our YouTube and Google campaign. As you can see, that's how it looked. And some people in this room and some people might say, I never saw it. Well, again, we can talk about how we tried to target. There's a lot of different ways this could or might have appeared in your feed. But as you can see, this gives you an example of how things would have looked on your screen. And on the right-hand side, those are how it would look on the YouTube home profile. So reach. So this I need to clarify here, because you might be looking and say, there are not, 14,000 people in Bailey, Colorado. This is potential reach by devices. So this is any device that we could find within our search parameters of information, of interest. And this also includes people that will come in and out of the area frequently. So this might also include people who come here to bike or hike or enjoy the tourism and recreation. So this is not necessarily location and potential reach is more than just one person. It is every device that we could find with an IP address, and also their search, what they've fed to Google and told Google, I'm looking for diapers. Tell me about Montessori schools. I heard that mentioned. So anytime you feed information to Google or to Facebook, it will help us to match our ads. So this is the potential reach that we could have had if we looked at every device within our search parameter. And we understand this area is obviously tourism heavy, so there could be some devices in here that are occasional or frequent flyers. Again, we just didn't have the ability to be super, super specific, so it is very, very broad in that sense. Oh, but here's the fun stuff. So 389 people thought that the ads were interesting enough that when it got in front of them, they decided to click on it and take a look. That's a big deal. That is us knowing that out of all those impressions, which are super impressive, right? That's a really big number. And the click-through rate. But what's really impressive here is that when you think about how many times per day you are inundated with messages from the internet and from your phone, how often do you actually click through? So this to me says, we caught their attention enough for whatever moment in time, if it's 3 a.m. or 11 o'clock, or if they're commuting to work, they thought Clear Creek was interesting enough to take a look at it. A number I'm gonna call out just because of the marketing world, as you might be looking at and being like, well, that's interesting. How come it got 264 clicks in January, but only 76 clicks in April? Consistently through this campaign, the wizards at Google were telling us that you're not feeding this campaign enough money to field your potential reach. And there's been a lot about this in the news, but they want you to feel successful when you first come out with an ad. So they'll generally let you, ratchet up, and then they will throttle you back in a way that, and we knew our ad spend was generous, and we were really appreciative of that. But they're telling us if you gave us more money, you could reach farther, faster, better. But that's a whole nother conversation, because I know in school districts like us, we try to focus on putting dollars to kids in classrooms, and this is definitely a tight area. But again, 389 people, and this is through the end of April. So you're still getting clicks. And I think that's just something to think about, is that these are the people that might come back to you in August. They might come back to you on count day. They might come back the day after count day, which isn't as great, but they still come back. So we have to think of this for you as a user. How often do you click on an ad you get on the internet? And I think that this is a valuable number and something that we're pretty proud of, and Clear Creek should be proud of. I don't know if you want me to show you the ads. Those are clickable so you can view. Does anyone want to see the videos, or you feel like you've seen, like, clicked on them? I know this was sent to you in advance.
We can look at it on.
Okay, excellent. But we wanted to show you that we have produced, as you can see on your YouTube channel, over the years, we produced a series of videos for Clear Creek. So we took already available content and we just upcycled it in a way that was fresh and new, and we felt showed the beauty of the district. We had some winter shots, we had some spring shots. Again, we have never done a full photo shoot of your district. As far as we know, the district has never had an opportunity to invest in doing a photo shoot of teachers in the classroom, but we did have an opportunity to come in a few times and engage with your professionals. Amazing experiences with your educators. They are awesome humans. And we did do some human resources work with Kristen as well. And that was really rewarding. And so we used all of that existing footage and to put it into some video content, because video content is extraordinarily powerful on the internet. It gets the most clicks. So we made this a video heavy campaign because we knew for the budget we had, it was going to get the most reach and use out there in the world. I'm not following my notes all the way. My business partner's going to be so angry at me if she watches this video later. But again, I just wanted to show you how the magic of Google is that you have to format it to fit on any device. And so we had to make sure that the ads we were putting together looked good on a mobile device. We also had to make sure they also look good on a computer. And they had multiple options here for how it could look. They have creative video partners, and so they would show us that if we could put this on a website, we could put this on a blog. Google and its Google Ad Network, of which we tapped into, it's literally your watch, your phone, your tablet, your computer, any screen, including streaming TV services. So it's pretty powerful. And therefore, however, with Google, here is the puzzle pieces. So with Google, when you're creating an ad, it's a little bit of a puzzle. We put in copy, and if you can imagine it, kind of like, remember at Mad Libs where you could pick a word? So each of these phrases had to be custom created, so they could be mushed together by Google to make a sentence at any time. So you don't tell Google what to say, the algorithm will mix up the headline with the long headline with a description and a call to action. So you'll get one description with one headline, with one long headline, with one call to action. So when we write these, we have to look at all the different variations of what it would look like so it could make sense. Because Google will just undulate it up and change it up every time. So you can play with this if you like, a little wordplay. But that's how every time an ad showed, it could show differently. But each of the pieces, when we wrote this copy, we had to make sure the long headline would make sense with any of the short headlines with the call to action and the description. So it's a little Google puzzle. They like to make things fun. This is when we looked at the results. This bar chart is just showing you an overview of the age distribution. We saw the strongest engagement among users ages 25 to 44, which is prime parenting years for families with schools-age children. We know that many families are waiting till after 40 and sometimes after 50. And we also recognize that grandparents, there are other adult caregivers that help participate in a child's life. So we, bless you. So we were looking, we noticed that was strong, and we think that's a really great distribution of parents, grandparents, and guardians. The income levels, the majority of users came from middle to upper middle income brackets. That's consistent with the median income in this area, about $83,000. And this suggests that our messaging resonated with families who are actively evaluating educational options for their children and are considering open enrollment and options of all types. We also know that this could mean potential for transfer or potential for long commutes. And I thought it was interesting. I heard at this table the challenges with early childhood education and parents willing to drive from Clear Creek to Boulder. Well, some families will have the same ability to drive from Denver or Lakewood or Boulder down to Clear Creek if they think this is a phenomenal opportunity for their child. So we know from this demographics we're reaching the right audience who are most likely to be making the enrollment decisions. So how did we find them, you might say? Well, we took a little bit of a shot in the dark, and Google lets you submit as many of these pre-formatted interest areas. So we, as you can see, shot the moon. We selected pretty much everything we could to try to cast the widest net possible. You'll see things like people who searched for programs, eco-friendly products, parents of infants, STEM programs, training to be a teacher, back to school ideas, we ran the gamut and checked off every box so that if someone had looked or was looking for running enthusiast or cycling enthusiast, why the heck not? We don't know if they have children or not, now or in the future, or maybe they don't, but it was worth it to put that option in their head. So maybe one day if the opportunity was right, they would think of Clear Creek and think of the great environment community you have that they would feel a good affinity for and with. And yes, we absolutely did Facebook ads as well. We know for a certain demographic, mine, who is a native Facebook user, circa 2004, we know it's a prime audience and it has a good base to work in. We did not venture in any other social media channels. I'm more than happy to talk to you about TikTok and Snapchat and all the cool new toys, but we did not play in those pools and felt like we got some good results off of Facebook and Google for our first round go ahead. So again, we designed multiple layouts and multiple ads that match the messaging and match the look. So if somebody was on a device and they saw a YouTube ad and then they went over to Facebook, they're getting the same ad and getting the same reverberance. I think the latest research says it takes a person 17 times to see a message to realize they're seeing it for the first time. Back in the day, that number was 9. But if you think of all the ways you're inundated with messages all day long, you have to keep repeating the message over and over and over again. The Facebook ad performance was strong as well. 102 clicks came out of that. There was engagement with your overall district page. And so it was one thing where we went, again, I think Facebook's interesting when you can look at the reach in January. We started on January 13th. And then we went through the end of April with these results. We can get you May's results as well. But again, we had video, we had copy, we had pictures. We felt like Facebook and Google were places to put these ads that where your parent base and your community base were the most engaged and involved. So therefore, when you build a creative ad and you build something digitally, you have to give people a place to go. So we worked intensely. This was a lot of partnership. This is a crossover piece where we worked intensely with Superintendent Meyer. We worked with the principals on the ground. We worked with your early childhood director. We needed their feedback. We needed to know what they wanted to be said about their schools. So these are the district landing pages. As you can see, we created a suite of 6 pages. We refreshed the homepage. We created a brand new Why Enroll page where we wanted to call out the reasons why you should consider enrolling in Clear Creek. We created a tour request form, which was universal for all of your schools and communities. So if somebody wanted to get in touch and they wanted to request a tour, we made that available. A Find My School option, which they could look at all of the schools that are in the Clear Creek School District. We had an Enroll and Register page, which we worked with the district on partnering to give parents the resources to enroll and register if they've already made that decision. Very rarely will people enroll their child in a new school without coming to touch it, visit it, call it, but it could happen, so we made it available. And then we created, we refreshed actually a page for early childhood and preschool options because we wanted to make sure that they also were included with advertising for the K-12 crowd that we also told people about. Our schools do have amazing ECE and preschool programs and you should come take a look. I'll quickly through this, but every school was refreshed their homepage. So we were calling out enrollment's open, enrollment now. We know that it is cheaper to retain the students that you currently have and it's more expensive to go look for new families. But we wanted to let everybody know that enrollment's open. It's time to enroll. So in January, when other schools were ramping up their choice enrollment periods, we put this information out there because we didn't want those people to get those students to get away. And then the new page was Why Enroll, and this is where the partnership with Superintendent Meyer and your principals, they wrote these pages. We did the outlines, we gave them the format. We also tried to make it easy on them during the Christmas holiday, didn't want to strain the brains, and so we said, this is something, highlight yourself, why are you such a great option? Each of the pages have a video in it. This page from Clear Creek High School has a video we made a few years ago with two parents, both of whom left a Jeffco school to come here. So they were telling the story of why they left their school and why they loved Clear Creek and how it worked out so amazing for their kiddos. So that was super impactful. Same thing for the middle school. We felt middle school needed to be special. We wanted middle school to feel like a great place. They also have a video about middle school and why Clear Creek Middle School is so amazing. And then we refreshed their homepage to do a call out for it's time to enroll in middle school. King Murphy, same thing. We have a video for them as well. And Carlson. I don't think we had a video featuring Carlson. I can't remember. Don't quiz me now. But again, every school that you looked at had a refreshed homepage and a why enroll page where we tried to call out with the team, why should you come here? What's so special about our school? So that people can know from the school's voice and the school's perspective. So we really are grateful and thankful to your school teams. Your principals were fantastic to work with, and we hope they were really proud of the outcome and the product here. So this is the campaign performance for the district page. And as you can see, I broke down each of the page paths. So this is the district only. I think the thing I want to call out is that the why enroll page was a brand new page and it got 157 page views so far with 86 unique visitors. So as you know, you might visit a site multiple times. So that is you are one unique visitor and you're having a site session so you can come back. So that means that there's 86 people who have visited the why enroll page 124 times. So someone's coming back 2 times, 3 times, someone's coming back and they keep looking or finding this page. Also the enroll and register page that I want to acknowledge that could be a mix of current families and prospective families. And also I want to call out the tour request form. So this is where the magic happens, where we can bring them digitally to the page, but what brings them into the school communities is meeting your team, meeting the principal, talking to the teachers. And so we would look to Tom and look to the school team here to say, we know as of the end of April, 11 people actually filled out the form. What happened next? And we can talk about that later, but it is exciting to know. And then last year, I don't know if we have that data, I don't think we do, but we know tours happen all the time. We know people call, but we're trying to track to say what's our baseline and what's the interest we got so far. Early childhood education, again, another exciting area for a lot of growth and development there, I think, with parents looking for high quality options in their community, and I know you're working on expanding that. Individual schools, I'll click, this is Clear Creek Middle School and Clear Creek High School. I think that, again, why enroll is a page that I'm most interested in looking at because that tells me people are trying to figure out why they want to enroll. And then the duration for all of this is the results that we have so far and the engagements that we have so far. Are there any questions? I can stop for a minute. I know I've been talking so much.
A question was asked about Georgetown. There's a link that goes to Georgetown's site that way.
Yes, yeah, we featured with Georgetown. We did not take tour requests for them. They have their, but they do.
To their site.
Yes, it goes directly to their site and directly to their page.
Did we do any Summit County outreach as far as the ad proximity?
Yeah, that's a great question, Vice President McHugh. Thank you so much for asking that. I'll just go back really quickly and we can take a look because I will admit to not being the best with my counties past Jeffco. I think there are Summit County communities in there.
We have Silverthorne there.
Yep, we cast the widest.
All of Breckenridge.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of the communities, all the.
I just wasn't even reading the second side, so I missed half of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
We're getting families that are getting priced out of Summit and looking to move just a little bit over the hill, and that happens to be Georgetown.
There's
Absolutely.
actually someone from Summit who's taking a tour of this building last week before.
Fantastic, yeah, I think we've got another 2 lined up, yeah, but they're coming from Summit right now too.
100%. I'll keep going. If I can
Thank you, I
remember.
appreciate
No, thank
that.
you, Director McHugh. That's a fantastic question. And yeah, we were not shy, but we also, again, given the limited spend that we had, we didn't want to cast our net too far. spread ourselves too thin. So it was a little bit of a balancing act when it came to the reach we could have and then the efficacy that we could, because again, the internet knows what they're doing and Mark Zuckerberg's a smart guy. And they would love to entice us to make a bigger investment to give us more reach. But we scaled awareness across $1.2 million views, which again says that we were able to put our ads in front of people. And so we're trying to get that resonance of, I saw Clear Creek, what's this? And so they recognize it and then might pop in their head, I have a kiddo, maybe they have preschool, maybe I should call them. There's definitely room to scale impact before the campaign ends in the fall. There's a couple different options with Superintendent Meyer and your team we could discuss if you were interested in looking at changing up the ad set, adding in a print tactic. There's lots of other ways that we could look at this if you had budget allocation or if you wanted to look at other opportunities to change up the campaign. But it did deliver strong conversions and strong results. It was multi-channel strategy, digital only, and if we felt like it was a good first touch in the water. They're great. We liked it. We hope you saw some people walk in. I know I saw the tour form and Superintendent Meyer might want to comment on this as well, but I saw some people saying, my students coming from overseas to spend this next summer with the family and we want to send them to a great local school. Can you contact us? We had a couple people looking to transfer. They're currently enrolled at other districts. We had a mother with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old who probably is, I believe already is in district, but was just looking at other options. And so therefore, one of the tenets of choice, it's so important to educate and inform parents when they're making that parental choice that Clear Creek can be a great choice. And we want them to come visit and experience it. So thank you for your time and thank you for your trust in working with your district and working with your team. It's been a pleasure and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you for your time. I sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tom.
Okay, just make some relatively quick updates here. Thanks, Katie, for being here too, but some relatively quick updates. Put something in the cover sheets there about the federal budget. Something can't just be changed by a snap of a finger. Some things can be, I guess, but when we start talking about budget, there is a process to go through. You know, there's a budget request, there's a budget request sent to Congress. House and Senate pass budget resolutions, House and Senate appropriation committees meet, subcommittees, and then the House and Senate vote on the bills and the president signs the bills too. So when we start talking about some things with funding, it's not just a bam, snap of a finger. I know we hear about some of those things that are seemingly a snap of a finger, but there is a process to that way too. And I know Kelly, you just talked about the SRS funds and that process that goes with it that way. And so it's a good way of looking at that. Committee meetings, I know Tom is here and he's gonna be talking a little bit, Tom Harvey. He's gonna be talking some about enrollment. Met with him a couple different times. We'll get into that later probably. Professional Development Committee, we're in the process of meeting. As I said, been working with Rachel on that, and I think she's been sharing it with Rachel Richardson. She's been sharing it with some other association members, and I've been sharing it with principals and other directors and things like that. So we're moving forward on that. We need to talk again relatively soon, but I think we're in a pretty good spot with it right now. So federal forest funds, we know we did receive those. We had that conversation, I guess, at another meeting at study committee, but we are getting funds for that. It's a total of about $433,000, which is good. It goes to the county, and then the county gives us 25%, and they can do other things with it that way. So got another 50% with that to get that total. And that's a positive thing. Preschool at King Murphy, some conversation about that. We're actually expanding that in some ways. We're gonna have a class of 10 and a class of 20. Remember, in a class of 10, it could be one teacher with 10 students. If you have 20, you can have one teacher and one paraprofessional with those 20 students. We end up going to, because we felt that 20 was getting a little large, especially when we maybe have different options. So we went with a section of 15 and a section of 15, a teacher and a para in both rooms, which I think helps out everyone. helps out the students with more adult interaction there. So there's a little cost to that way, but we believe it's a worthwhile investment to get them into the district and then moving forward with that too. And then with the mill levy override, talk a little bit about this at study committee as well, but our mill levy override amounts to about $25,341 or something like that. That's not much, just to run the cost of the election and time and things like that. That's not going to give us much at all. So that's what Stifel informed me of a couple weeks ago, I think it was. Don't quote me on something like that way, but just so you kind of see some things in that regard. And there was something else I was going to mention that I thought of during the study table. We have some people going to state. We have some people going to state track. That'll be in the weekly nugget this week. A whole list of those people. It'll also be in your board notes this week as well. But that's a great thing that's happening Thursday, Friday, Saturday that way. So it's great to see students succeeding, not just in school within the walls, but also athletically and other extracurricular things. You mentioned the music concert coming up tomorrow evening, different things like that going on. So those are all positive things our students can participate in, and probably remember those more than some other things that they experience. Seniors had a day they'll probably remember today too, with slip and slide, all that kind of stuff out there. Everything like that. That's what I had today, so.
Thank you. So I think, is Brooke still? There she is. Like, I know she-
Brooke took off.
And I just talked a little bit about.
You can stand wherever you
Not
like.
stand.
You can stand wherever you like.
As long as you don't break your phone.
Hi, guys.
Welcome. Thanks, Brooke. So I think you've got an update for us on the small vehicle driver.
Well, I think, yeah, and you guys might have questions. I mean, we
Yes.
are in trouble with small vehicle drivers next year. I have, two bus drivers that retired. So I'm taking those two of my small vehicle drivers and getting them to be bus drivers, because we have to have our routes. As of next year, I'll have one extra route, the sped routes. And then, but my question being right now we have 25 Warren Tech,
22, 23, 25, 60.
which is huge. But the thing with Warren Tech is I don't know who's gonna be driving, who's gonna drive themselves. Who's going in the morning, who's going in the afternoon, what school they're going to, there's 3 different schools. Right now, we kind of make it work and take one van in the afternoon and we go to North and then we go to Central. And then we go to, South, we just make it work. So I'm gonna work on it. We need to just get out there and get small vehicle drivers. I talked to Tom a little bit about possibly if we found some, maybe, Paris or somebody up here that could possibly help with, if they wanted to do Warren Tech, I don't know. And I'm just,
I just talked to one
yeah, just
actually
one.
this afternoon. I believe.
So, it's gonna be interesting to say the least, but it's been interesting every year, so. it is what it is.
How many do you usually have, small vehicle drivers?
Right now I have 3.
And you said you're losing 2.
Well, I'm gonna put them on bus.
Okay.
Cause I have to have the bus drivers, or,
Yeah.
you can't find bus drivers, so they're gonna go to bus. And then I'm still down one route on bus next year, but I'll make that work, between mornings and afternoons. So, it's just one of those things that we had kind of talked, there's maybe one up here, maybe 2.
I think it's a good issue to have students enroll at Warren Tech.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah,
There was
that's
only
it.
2 the year
Yeah, that's a
Sam
positive.
went,
But see, the interesting thing with Warren Tech is, we have 25 now. They changed the schedule next year for it.
Right.
So it's 5 days, which some kids might go, nobody else is gonna work on school on Friday, I'm not gonna. It fluctuates so much. We start strong and then the kids, there's a lot of backing out of it, quite honestly.
I think we've also had the conversation
Yeah.
too, the schedule that we have on August 13th, I think the first day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the first day is of Warren Tech, it may not be that early.
Yeah.
Is maybe not going to be scheduled on September first,
Right.
just based on.
It's a constant
things
change, it's a constant
with-
change right now.
with
I mean, I'll call up here at 10:30 and say, how many do I have? And that'll either tell me if we're taking the car or we're taking the van. So it fluctuates a lot.
Is there, could we make it a requirement that the ones that are gonna drive themselves, you know, so the numbers
I've tried to do that,
fluctuate?
Marcy, and then it gets to the point where I'll have parents, because what I'll do is I have the list now. So in July, I'll start calling and saying, hey, are you gonna want transportation, or you're not? Knowing that it's not gonna be a for sure thing, but it kind of gives me an idea on the ones that can drive and the ones that can't drive. And a lot of parents will say, no, they're gonna drive themselves, they're gonna drive themselves. But then when the snow starts flying, they're like, then they'll call and say, hey, can they have a ride? Well, of course you can have a ride. But I wish I'm 100% on if you say you're gonna drive, you're gonna drive.
Yeah.
Because they do get, we're finding a lot this year too, is, we'll go down in the van, we'll take 5 kids. She'll go back to pick them up in the afternoon, she's bringing 1 and nobody's let us know.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of
I'm
like sports buses. you know?
Exactly, so it's kind of like, you've got
Time and money.
you gotta let us know, because if I don't have to go down, I'm not going down. But I think if we, like you said, if we became more strict with it, but then, you get slack for being strict too, but honestly.
There's always exceptions to
There's
things too.
exceptions,
There's
yeah.
always things.
So, it's gonna
Pop up.
be interesting, I don't know, bottom line, we're gonna have a Warren Tech route, whether that's taking a van and going to, right now, it looks like there's only a couple going to the north campus, which is kind of good. But I don't know for sure. So we'll have that, and then I have one extra route that isn't for sure that we have to do. So, but then that can change on a dime any minute, in any second too.
If I'm getting the math right here, you're in need of 1 bus driver and 2 small vehicle drivers. What kind
At
of
least 2.
what kind of outreach are we doing at the district level? Because I frankly have not seen.
Well, I will say that Lorraine and Scott and then have put it in their newsletters and stuff for parents, because it's I wish it's the perfect job for a parent that stays home. You want the same schedule as your kids. But, so Lorraine has done a lot, Scott's done a lot, Tom did quite a few in the Nuggets. It's been on-
Those are required
That's
people.
internal.
That's internal. What are we doing to reach out to the world, to the community?
I just talk a lot.
It's been on the HR page off and on.
Yeah.
but To,
Unless
You
you're
have to go to
searching
the
for,
HR
I'm gonna be
page.
a bus driver.
Yeah.
should-
I really
don't
think it's gonna
about
become
it.
a word, quite honestly, a word of mouth type of thing, really, the more people are talking like, hey, this is a great opportunity. That's when I was talking to principals, it's like, if you could talk to some of the, parents, because we've had a few parents, like Scott had a couple parents that's, a dad, like, what would it be to be a bus driver, da, da, da. And he sounded very interesting, and he's saying, no, I don't do it anymore. So, you got a whole lot of that.
Not to disparage those efforts, but frankly, they don't seem to be working.
No, they're not, but do you
So
have
we've gotta
suggestions?
try something else.
Yeah.
We've gotta outreach to the community. We've gotta get some marketing, some advertising out there. And maybe it's a fun, weird ad. I don't know what it is, but I live in this community and I would not have known any of this if I
I
was
wasn't
sitting on this table.
Yeah.
Right?
I've seen banners and Jeffco, I don't know.
I
Right?
see banners up
We've
in
done that.
other towns I've seen.
We've done that, we spent the money on the banners when we were down below, didn't work, didn't get one call.
I like your idea, I think was you said, some type of an ad that's
Bonkers.
it's
Just
got
bonkers.
a clown on it, I don't
Right,
know what
yeah, I don't
it is.
know. I'm just
it has-
thinking,
It has a 5-year-old driving the bus, I don't, just.
Well, if we
something
don't
to get
hire
some
somebody, the 5-year-old is gonna drive it.
Or a dog, maybe a dog, I don't know, seriously, but maybe there is some kind of creative type ad that's gonna get somebody's attention,
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know, I'm open to whatever too, you can only, since I've been here, I'll be honest, I've been here a long time and there's been mad for bus drivers, small vehicle drivers since I've been here.
Right.
And since I've been in this position, it's been over and over, we did the ad, we went and paid money and got one of the big, put it on the fence down there, remember? On the thing, didn't get one phone call. So, but see, the thing, we're not alone, because I talked to other districts and they're having the exact same problem that we're having. So it's not like we're doing, it's everywhere.
Well, and maybe it's asking those parents of the kids that are in Warren Tech about carpooling and then saying, oh, there's actually funds for this if you would do it regularly. Because, was driving my kid to Red Rocks until she got her driver's license, and then she got to drive herself.
I will say 3
And I
years ago,
know-
when we were in
yeah.
this situation, when we didn't have drivers for Warren Tech, and I don't suggest we do it again, but just showing that we try different things, they offered to give kids a credit card for their gas. Stupid.
Yeah.
Because they're not using, they're using that credit card to go elsewhere. So, I don't know,
Get a couple burgers on the way.
that did not work well,
When
but
I was going to school, my parents got paid mileage reimbursement for driving me because the bus would come to.
see, that would be good too.
So
Maybe
that
you could
was
just add it to their
quarterly.
school account or something, so it's going towards their fees, their lunch, whatever.
So when I call Warren Tech parents, maybe I'll just be a little bit more aggressive on the fact that, would you be interested in driving? Do you know anybody that's interested? There is one parent that did approach me that is having a Warren Tech student that said, but I haven't heard from her. That was, 2 months ago.
Maybe that's something you and I can.
So, but I mean, that's,
I think we need to be stricter with the rides.
well, I'm glad you said that because when I am, I get in trouble for it, so.
I mean, we just don't have the capacity to be there at
Uber,
their beck and call.
it's called Uber.
Yeah.
Not in Colorado.
No, I don't. So, yeah, I mean, it is, it's a problem, we'll make it work somehow, some way. You guys wanna drive a car?
Well, frankly, I just hate seeing the whole department suffer. I mean, and you just hear, every time we talk, right, it's just always the same kind of thing. And I feel like, we've gotta try something and continue to try something different. Not that you haven't, continue on. And something's gonna hit at some point. I mean, it has to.
Well, I think it also ties into the question that gets asked quite often, our bill to Evergreen. Each month is 11,000 to 10,000, whatever it is. I mean, that's a small vehicle type thing. How can we try to handle that?
The expense of the alternative is.
Yeah, the alternatives that we're using right now for some transportation is extremely expensive.
Can we take the expense of the Ever-Driven and incorporate that into
A transportation budget.
the
Or-
transportation budget, right? Kind of like that, but give people increases, but still accommodate, that. And then if we increase the rate of the driver, then everybody's happy, right? Like-
Yeah, well, if you're gonna do that, I'm just gonna say, if you're gonna, increase to get people, you cannot forget about the people that have been here for.
Well, no, I'm saying it has to be within your department,
Right.
a department-wide thing. But we cannot afford these $10,000 a month Ever-Drivens anymore when we have the ability to at least shuffle some of that money. It could benefit your department if we shuffled some of that instead of paying it out. At least we're keeping some of it.
As long as we don't forget about, like I say, don't forget about.
No, that's what I'm saying, department-wide.
That have been there.
It's the pot of money.
Yeah.
You do.
No, whatever we have to do, this is an ongoing thing. I'm not too freaked out about it because I deal with it every year. It's like, I drive morning, afternoon, all the time.
$120,000 a year,
And
and then
it's-
some more.
and it's
10 was
crazy.
low.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. But,
I think another issue we run into with training bus drivers too, we had a conversation, they had everything set up for training a couple for the beginning of June, and that fell through yesterday or whenever it fell through just recently, so now training's gonna take place. We talked this morning, I guess, so, but we're good training for them, but there's another, just getting people trained to drive a bus too, it's a whole different realm than small vehicle, I'm not trying to.
And it's not
No,
just
I
us.
understand.
it really isn't just us.
Can we recruit bus drivers from the rack companies?
They can't pass a drug.
That's
No,
gonna, thanks,
true.
Kelly.
That's true.
That's not gonna happen.
That was funny, Marcy.
Yeah, I'm thinking outside the box.
But the other thing too, though, like with you say though, Marcy, is if I can, and I try to, but, you're always playing that fine line. Maybe when I do talk to parents, I get more,
Is there like a contract that they have to
no,
sign
there's
or
no
anything?
contract. I wouldn't mind
But
doing
I
a
could also
contract.
see if a student is signing up at a certain point to drive themselves, but hey, their car broke down.
Well, there's always
You know what I'm
exceptions,
saying?
but that's different than, oh, I'm not gonna let you know, I'm just not going this morning.
The day
Or, I
Right.
decided to ride home with my buddy because we're gonna go have lunch, or, you know, I mean, that type of stuff. Your car broke down, the weather's crappy, you don't wanna drive in the snow. Those are different things as
Right.
opposed to
Okay.
take you down, I'll see you this afternoon, and then you're sitting down there waiting, you don't hear. And then I have to call and say, where are you? Oh, I went to lunch with.
So it sounds
So-and-so.
to me that it's the communication between the students themselves and your department. And,
Well, they're
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
they're supposed to do it through the school.
well, that's what I mean, you know, through the school.
I think maybe this-
There's gotta be
I
an
think
easy way
there's,
for them to communicate.
why don't, you know, and as we talked about this, it's been, it's not the first time we've had this. But maybe having a conversation between you, me, Brandy, maybe even involving a couple other people in that too, and just trying to come up with a more of a, I'll say format, system for it, whatever you wanna say, to kind of address that, to try to get things more etched out that way, which I think we're lacking right now.
Or like if you're gonna have a change in your transportation, you have to let us know 48 hours in advance, or, you know, something like that.
I've already done all that. Every single one of those Warren Tech students have my personal phone and my work phone. And I can tell you that there's a couple that are really good that will text me at 10:30 at night.
So we
Yeah,
start
no.
charging them every time they make you sick.
I'm not going anymore, but thanks for letting me know, you know, I mean, I have
Okay,
a
but
couple.
these are students that have been
So I tried
rotated to
that.
go to Warren Tech, and they're already one step into pretending to be an adult, right? So as an adult, you gotta let your boss know.
It doesn't matter how many times you say it, I hate to tell you.
But I think it's maybe something that,
If we became more strict on it,
I think we can try to sit down and draft something up. But I think having your involvement, Brandy's, maybe Pam's even with it, Pam deals a lot with Warren Tech, and our coaches will next year probably too, but just, at this point, that may be a route to take, cause I agree with you.
Route to take.
I didn't mean anything, but, you know, I think there's two ways to look at it, you know, hey, you know, things happen and we wanna get students there. Also, at the same time, you know what? If you can't make it, then you need to let someone know, and what happens as a result. And, you
No,
know,
I think
and we offer to make phone calls or something like that sometimes too, right?
So basically, it would be a good idea if we did, they have their agreement within the school that they're doing it to get out of class. So I could come up with agreement for transportation,
With a consequence if they don't follow the rules, you know?
which, yeah, but then, yeah.
Let's try to.
It's fair,
look at
we're a
something.
small district, we don't have the resources to just sit down there and wait, and maybe they're coming and maybe they're not, you know?
I'd like to point out that small vehicle drivers start out higher than McDonald's. Like,
But they have to take.
Yeah, let's
As
get
a- as a
ask.
part-
Is it at their-
as a part-time job, I mean, just starting out, and this is the old schedule, and yeah, I hope,
Right?
you know, we're looking at amending that upwards, but 1938 is,
That's not a
Starting?
new one. That's not a new one, is it?
that was the newest one
I
on the
think it's at
website.
21 or
We don't have
22.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I know that it's been amended upwards, but 1938 is more than Walmart or.
I say we cut ever driven and bring everybody up to 30 and bring in more employees.
You know that our bus drivers are some of our longest serving
120 No,
employees,
30
so.
goes to it goes to everybody. Why do you guys keep thinking I'm cutting them out?
Oh, no, I'm saying that when you make that 30, then
Oh,
it
right.
increases by a
Sure,
large
sure.
percentage, that's all.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's not as
Well, every
easy as
year, the
just,
ever driven's gonna get more expensive.
this is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe it's just,
I mean, word of mouth, it would be
Yeah.
great if we could find some, you know, parents that, you know, and that's the thing that I was kind of surprised was, you know, we have parents that are so active in the elementary schools and stuff that, you know, to get out to them, you know, hey, would you like to, you know?
Yeah.
It's, you know,
no, I,
you're not working all day, still do what you want to do.
I think we need to
I
come up
don't
with
think
some
we
more,
can shove this down the parents' throats. I don't think it's working.
I think looking at a couple different things too, we can talk about this, but, you know, looking at some more creative marketing. Also talking about carpooling, if you're gonna, willing to carpool, and we could actually make it worth your while to carpool.
So would the district be willing to pay
Pay
if
gas
you had a
or
group of
turn your
kids?
mileage
Okay,
in.
but then you run into the issue of,
Not,
do those parents want their kids riding with these other kids?
But
you
we've
know?
got forms for that, I mean, we've discussed that
realize
in
that.
meetings.
or do we even
So-
try to hire those people to be small vehicle drivers? No,
No, not the kids, no.
No, not the kid, no, no, no,
That's
no, no,
where-
no. I'm going back to the
I mean, we were
1980s
talking
here, okay?
dogs
I drove back from Des Moines, Iowa one time with a group anyway, because the driver got.
I don't know, well, it's gonna be interesting, so
Yeah, no, thank you for helping us.
if you have any
understand.
suggestions or whatever, let me know. Word of mouth.
Yeah.
Any bus drivers, any small vehicle drivers?
Got
And off we go.
Let's talk tomorrow, we'll see each other tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for supporting being tough though, because I get in trouble for being tough sometimes.
Got the Verigy report?
I think she sent it out with a note for information only, I thought it came.
Okay, well, but, I'm gonna,
Yeah, let's do a little bit of a review.
can you do it? Can I get it for you?
It's a really great thing.
Is it a PowerPoint or is it?
It's PowerPoint. My bad, I thought.
No, that's it.
So Aaron, do you want to start talking a little bit about this that way, or Carrie Ann? Actually, Carrie Ann, was at the meeting with us as well. It's a PDF, actually, my fault.
Yeah, on the 12th. It was emailed.
It's in the Word folders.
Yeah, is it like a one pager or?
No, it's not.
No, it's 36 pages.
We tried to reduce it down, Aaron and I were talking about reducing it down, but, we couldn't get it less than 20, basically.
There's a lot of good information on most slides.
My fault, Kristen, that's my fault, everybody.
So if you guys will recall, we had asked Tom and Aaron to move forward with the energy audit with Verigy. And so this is just a high level audit. The next step is essentially, do we decide to take it down, screws in on the numbers and see where we can actually go specific to our numbers? And that's just the recap.
And
Feel free to chime in.
Okay, I will.
As everyone knows, Carrie Ann met with Tom and I and Verity.
I think the one thing that I gained from it, and I think she talking Ashley, who was here, Ashley Kruger, who was here a few months ago, talking about there are multiple things to look at, from windows to lighting to caulking to your entryways. How much energy are you losing through those areas? How much are you losing from not having lights that go off on their own?
Redundancy of
Motion, right?
boilers.
Yeah, it's just all kinds of things to look at and to try to get a good overview of where are we at with our energies and what savings are potential just by doing some of these simpler things in that regard. So that was a major point that I gained from it in that regard. And then it led into talking about solar and putting solar, we talked about solar. And one thing I want to back up with too, we have data on this building, we have data on King Murphy. They just got data from Georgetown, and then we don't have enough data on the new Carlson building. We just don't have enough to really judge where we're at and what we have there that way. So that was a point of emphasis there. But when we talk about solar and then talking about on the roof, on the ground, carports and things like that, and there's cheapest, most payback is on a roof, if it can withstand wind and getting engineers involved and things like that. And when we had people hear about the roof and looking at putting a new roof on, engineers, yeah, it will hold some solar, but it depends on how much you're gonna put on there and how much and engineering and how it's going to be that way. I'm taking some of Aaron's thunder that way. But anyway, it's up now. So if we can go to about the 5th slide there, actually. It has a little drawing there. We can do that. That'd be great.
And ultimately, what they were able to show us is that this building and King Murphy are our biggest energy users and probably the biggest emphasis on where we need to go with the energy savings. But as he mentioned, we don't have the data from Georgetown as of yet, but we
It's
know.
been submitted, just they don't have it.
Right. We know from our first report with the reserve study as it was, that they have determined that Georgetown is probably the healthiest of all of our buildings, so I'm not feeling too scared about that. But I was not surprised at all about King Murphy in this building.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yep, so as Tom talked about, the energy audit is kind of the road to solar. It's not, solar is not the whole part of the audit. This kind of outlines what they're looking at, ways to save money, and what we could do before or even if we get to solar. Things like windows, HVAC systems, lighting controls, HVAC controls, occupancy sensors on the in the classrooms on the lights and stuff like that. And Carlson's really good representation of that. All of our classrooms have occupancy sensors, our hallways have occupancy sensors and controls. So going down, page 7, we start getting into some numbers. District-wide electrical use, district-wide gas use, and district-wide domestic water use. If you look at the district-wide domestic water use, in April, there's a big spike.
In this April of 2024.
Correct. That spike shouldn't be there. That curve should be more like the right side of that graph. That spike came from a water break that was in this school that really shot up that month. So if you take that water break out, the left side of the graph would look more like the right. Page 8, more graphs. The left graph here is the high school electricity usage per month and what we spend. The right side is the high school water. Again, you can see that spike in April. And then bottom of the graph, bottom of the page there is King Murphy power and gas or natural gas usage. So you can see in the months where we're not occupying most of those graphs except the high school, in June, July, May it starts, but it really dips in the summertime. And a lot of that, we could change those trajectories, and you'd see a lot more variation if we had controls in the high school and King Murphy for HVAC and lighting. Currently, high school here, we don't have controls over HVAC. We're still running on full HVAC systems on Fridays when we could be saving a lot of energy during those times. Page 9. Here it shows the graph of, again, what we use, and if you kind of go down to page 10, it better describes that, where the min and max show those should be correlated of where we should be. We're in the red in most of those areas. And they'd like to see us, obviously, nowhere near that. And in the high school, we're far above those numbers of where we should be. New Carlson's pretty good from the data that we have, which should be expected. And then King Murphy kind of fluctuates between high and medium range.
In those middle two are the 3rd and 4th line, the wastewater treatment plant, and the middle school, high school pump house, just so you kind of see those.
Now King Murphy is also on a well when you're looking at that data.
Yeah. Good point.
Page 11. So Quake Creek Middle School, High School is the majority utility user. They marked it as a great candidate for solar or battery arbitrage. If you don't know about battery arbitrage, it would be putting a battery system in this school, storing power, and then selling it back to the grid at peak hours of usage. So there'd be a potential for savings there, offset some of our power usage.
With the middle school, high school, this building is on Core Electric and they don't do the buyback.
Yes, the buyback there, you're not gonna
get the net metering on this building.
Right, you can, but it's at the consumer rate, not the wholesale
Correct,
rate.
right. It's like, why do it?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But it would also store for
Right,
cloudy
no,
day
exactly,
or
no,
if the
there-
power went out and.
it's
not a
not a
bad
reason
thing.
not
It's not-
to,
yeah.
yeah,
It's just, I think the point of that is making sure you design your solar
right,
accordingly, so you're not getting a ton extra that you don't,
exactly.
you don't need that way too.
So we can scroll down to page 13. Again, it talks about lighting mainly in the high school here. We have a lot of high-pressure sodium lights, like the ones above us. We have them throughout the school, but high-pressure sodium, for one, it's extremely hard to buy parts for or lights for anymore, and they're take extreme energy to run. So switching everything over to LED would be a great savings to the district. They have started in the past switching some over to LED. Most of our hallways are LED. The classrooms aren't LED as much because we can only get those in off hours and summer times, but making the investment and moving everything to LED would greatly benefit us. They also suggested, moving down to page 14. We also suggested changing out our hardware in our bathrooms. They believe we're running at a 2.2 gallon per minute out of our faucets and our toilets, and changing those to the hardware to 1 gallon per minute would reduce a lot of costs that we spend for water, and that's both here and King Murphy.
Excellent.
So we have page 15, kind of just shows these top two pictures here, HVAC units on top of this roof, which are original. And then the next few pictures are all from King Murphy. And most of those are original. Those are the boilers that we are replacing. We've replaced one this year, we're replacing another one in June. And then a couple other units, there's the unit there in the gym, but just talking about the age of our units, they're all basically at their term of life. So they may still run for another 10, 15 years, but the efficiency really goes down after their lifespan, usable lifespan. So replacing those, they're not necessarily recommending going up there and replacing them right now, but as they fail, upgrade them, as in rebuild them or full replacement.
Much more efficient units.
Correct.
Do you mind if I speak to the control strategies?
Of course.
So I don't think people quite get what that means and how amazing that is for a person managing a building or many buildings this size. This is something that I think I would have white hair right now if I didn't have on the buildings that I managed. You can pull up, the app and a little button, and then Aaron could see each boiler on the system. And he could dive down into each boiler. He could dive down into each circulating pump. He could see the temperatures. He can see when they're doing the redundancy work. He can check for leaks even at certain points as well for glycol when it's becoming a problem. This is such a huge thing for a person like Aaron in a job like he has to save his sanity. See, he can wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be able to see, the kids are going to be great. Everybody has moving on to the next thing, instead of having to run around to every building or calling somebody to say the thing. Or if something goes down, he has to physically investigate it, as opposed to just getting on there and seeing where the sensor points are going bump, because there'll be an alarm. The darn thing gives you an alarm. You get to know before anybody else knows. To me, this is a no-brainer for you.
Yep, and thank you for touching on that. I was actually going to bring it up a little further on, but so at Carlson, we have a system, a control system. It's called Niagara. Niagara is widely used and recommended by a lot of companies. I can control all of the HVAC controls at Carlson. It's built out already for the high school and King Murphy on the interface. Obviously, it has to be integrated further, but the basic build out is already there on that. But like Carrie Ann said, as soon as there's an issue, there's parameters on every pump, every boiler. And as soon as there's an issue, it sends me either a text message or email. And I can then get on my computer here and see what the problem is. And because we're a district with, I have to travel to King Murphy, to Carlson, or here, I can see what the issue is and then send myself or the crew with the right tools or parts to fix that, rather than coming here, going on the roof, figuring out what the problem is, realizing we don't have the tools to fix it, go to Denver or back to the shop to get that. So it really would save a lot of time to update this school and King Murphy to those controls, as well as, again, what I spoke to earlier is from that same program, we can set occupancy schedules from there. So like Carlson, Monday through Thursday, the occupancy sensor switches from unoccupied to occupied at 6 a.m. and then at 5 p.m. it goes to unoccupied, where the entire system switches from full heating to normal, regular, everyday heating to unoccupied schedule and ramps those boilers down. It really saves energy and cost there. So
I think the one thing when you say, talk about saving costs, that's what we're trying to figure out, how much cost can we save. There's a little slide here later on. Look at page 17 here, kind of talks about those things that we're talking about there, windows, doors, roofing, transition systems, all those kind of things. We'll talk about natural gas a little bit on 18 there, just a different way of getting natural gas. And
yep, so currently we buy our natural gas through Excel monthly. They're suggesting, and which would result in a $9,000 annual savings, is to buy our gas through Tiger, which we purchase our gas one time for the entire year instead of a monthly purchase where gas prices can fluctuate up or down. But they project a $9,000 savings just with the one-time purchase through Tiger, one-time annual purchase through Tiger.
And the next slide's here, a little bit on solar. That way, we have Core Electric and we have Excel. This building's on Core, well, you can read it right there. To read that to you, but there's different things like we were talking about buyback before too, but there's some opportunities for savings there and installers solar. Here's on the next slide there, it talks about ground mounts and where they could be, different locations where you could have those at. I'm not trying to, and then the next one is a carport. You can put carports in where people would park underneath, put those on top. There are some savings in it. Then I missed the roof one.
The roof's next.
Roof's next, okay. And then the King Murphy mounts, but putting on the roof there. That way, so you can see some different options to put them at different places that way too. So you kind of see some, and there's some savings there for each one of those, not going through each one of those.
Quite a bit of savings.
Yeah, exactly, quite a bit of savings. The new Carlson, not quite sure that way, there's some question there on how it could be used that way too, but those are
Because
some
of the
things.
way the sun.
Yeah, because the way the sun's in the mount right behind it in that regard. And stuff.
Now, one thing that's not in this report that we did discuss during our meeting was their ability to also check out for geothermal, which I think is a real
We
possibility.
did not talk yet, we talked about that, but that's not it. Yes.
So that's one of the things I'd like to continue to investigate. Because we're kind of, we're classic for that.
So if you want to scroll down to page 26. So identifying and you've all seen this slide in Bergie's last report, but she put it back into this one because it really just plays a role. Identifying the right things to do in the right order. And the right order is going through with this audit, seeing as a whole where we're at energy-wise, and then scaling if we get to solar. Getting our buildings as lean as possible. Right now, we're using a lot of energy. If we go back and replace all the fixtures with LEDs and replace some of our faucets so that we're not using as much water, and put controls on our boilers so that we can control the occupancy sensors, Then we're down to lien amount where we can then talk and look into proper planning for a solar system. Right now, our solar system would be, I'd throw out a number of twice as large as it needs to be, so that's twice as much cost as it would need to be. So doing these things first before looking at solar.
That was
is
actually not
crucial.
what they were saying. They were saying that because of the timing of the solar credits, the tax credits, which do sunset, you know, if we don't get our foot in the door before the end of 2025, then we're never gonna get that 50% savings. Their recommendation was actually do them on the same track. Do the nitty-gritty evaluation on the savings, work towards that, do the things that you were talking about, but at the same time, see what solar could do to shore that up, just so that we don't miss that 50% tax credit.
Correct. The next part of the audit will show us and give us actual numbers to where we could be and should be with
Right.
those additions. We can also plan our solar at the same time so that we can fast track it, so we can make sure to get to those incentives.
Right.
But yeah,
Just making sure that we're working toward it. and
Right, yeah, we're just doing the
working
thing.
toward it. We have to do it efficiently
Right.
and efficiently being cost efficient, but also time efficient. That way, I
Right.
would say that way. If you go to page 31 here, it talks about some different savings there too, I think that are valuable to see.
What is that
Before
one?
solar, after solar and things like that. And then there's grants and rebates as well for them, that they assist with those through the process too, based on what our data is showing. We talk about data for student learning, we'll also need to talk about data for energy savings as well.
So, yeah,
potential savings, just doing some of the low hanging fruit, we could potentially save $65,000 a year before implementing solar. That was a great number.
How much are we looking at spending to get us to?
That's the unknown.
so so the way that the program works, and we've gotten our high level, review, and we need to get it whittled down to a better, an actionable review. We aren't there yet. So what they do is they work with not the governor's energy office, I'm just saying, Colorado's energy office. Colorado's energy office, is it on there?
Yeah, 35.
There you go. So then it goes to the Colorado Energy Office. They have the investment grade audit scenario. That would be our next stage. And we would sign up theoretically with Verigy to do that. The way it works at the Colorado Energy's office is that there's a slate of these Verigy folks that you can work with. And they can only charge what the Colorado Energy office says that they can charge. We don't actually get charged anything until we decide not to work with them. And then we have to turn around and pay them whatever that Colorado Energy's office bill was. Otherwise, it rolls into the actual energy savings tax credit package.
They're basically approved, this isn't the right terminology, but they're basically a vendor that's approved by the Colorado Energy Office, which has what I
Standards.
consider pretty strong standards of
Yeah.
this is how much you can charge for something, you cannot go over this amount. That's my understanding of it.
So that is where we are today, is whether or not we want to move forward
With the IGA,
with the IGA.
investment grade audit.
Whenever she said IGA, I just kept going back to the intergovernmental agreement. Wait, you're not a government.
I thought about a grocery store,
Oh, there you go.
Do we know how much the cost is to save the 65,000? To change light bulbs into LEDs and the faucets?
We don't know until we get the nitty gritty details, and then we can tie it to the grants that are available. They do all of the grant writing as well.
Okay.
So if I understand that, we have to at least commit to funding that audit, and then we have to commit to do the things in the audit, or we have to pay twice.
The one thing about their presentation that I thought was really key, and we haven't said that here, is that there is an actual guarantee. If you do not save that $65,000, they have to pay us.
Yeah.
Literally.
I guess to finalize, if you just scroll to 34,
34.
did we go by that already?
Yeah, there you go.
So it's just showing everything, where all the money is coming from to your energy project. Your capital investment, your bond contingency, your tax credits, your grants and rebates, and your potential financing and leasing options, all pouring into one bucket.
The
to
capital is a
pay
match
for
mostly,
your energy project.
right?
So
We don't
that's-
know how much
We
the
don't.
audit costs. We don't have any
We can give them
bond
that
dollars available. We have a very limited capital budget. So I'm looking at this and we don't have a lot of those paint cans. And then we have a cost energy project that we don't know what that is. Okay. Just making sure I was understanding. Thank you.
No, yeah.
And, when they were talking about the use of the capital improvement budget, that was, again, just to be used as matches for the grant that you can actually leverage against each grant as you're rolling it through.
So one thing, I can find out how much that audit is too, even though it carries over. If you keep
Right.
going, I can find out how much that audit is, Aaron, and I can figure that out that way and can report back in that regard. I think it's an ongoing conversation. I think it needs to be looked at. I do understand, I think what you were saying is like, yes, there's some money involved in it, and I think what you were saying as well, is like, how much does this cost to save money?
Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's ultimately. how
It's
much-
kind of like the
how-
bus driver thing we're talking about.
Yeah. How much do we have to actually save money? Because you still have to have money, you still have to have money,
Right.
regardless of what's out there,
Functional.
unless you get 100% grant, which I don't think that's gonna be
But
bad.
this particular
Unknown amount of
savings
money.
is a sustainable
This
savings.
is ongoing.
This is
Yeah.
ongoing,
Which
and
is-
it's money
which is
that we
good,
can put back into the classroom specifically. And that's why I think it's paramount that we consider it.
Bring it up at our next.
Have you considered, or have we, I should say, considered requesting the free energy efficiency consultation from CORE for this building?
We have not.
I might suggest we consider free things. They do have something on their website I just pulled up where we can do, CORE provides free energy efficiency consultations. Interested in lowering your usage, a specialist will use information to give you energy efficiency savings, simple 4-step process. You will be contacted in 3 to 5 days. So that might be worthwhile to think of here. I know there's another big utility in our state and they are very generous with their programs and do like free LED conversions, free shower head things. And so I'm curious if CORE is as competitive as the other utility.
You're speaking about Excel.
I was.
So they did speak to having the ability to work with both Excel and CORE to be able to implement the freeness without using them specifically, but not as a middleman, but that we would get the rebates through them. Through even
Yes.
Aaron's vendor that we were talking about in that conversation.
Yeah, it's possible to use more than one type of thing. Why don't we investigate that a little bit and try to get.
I mean, it seems like a large majority of savings could come from this building, and we should probably explore with this utility. I would think would make sense.
I just don't think that changing out the lights is going to get us to where we need to go, which is essentially what those utility companies do. They look at lights and windows, right? And we saw the numbers here. Those are great numbers. I think we're like $9,000 or $12,000. But when we're talking about HVAC, that is not CORE. that's gonna take an extreme professional layout and plan, and what are we gonna do with our capital components that we know are aging and are workhorsing the crap out of our power, and not being efficient at all, not to mention it's probably gonna run him ragged in 2 years, right? So that piece of it, that is the bigger piece of it to me. Much bigger than the lights, because he's been working on the lights anyway. And like you just said, he's waiting for the kids not to be in the classroom to address the ones in the classroom. That's already been ongoing. But yeah, I think the HVAC is probably the cherry that we need to start grappling on.
I just know me personally am super uncomfortable in our financial position to write a blank check to save money in the future. And I understand and I agree with the bigger picture, but in the immediate, it makes me very uncomfortable.
So let's find out what the audit would cost us if we decided not to move forward with their information once they provided it. And then once we were able to get that audit, then also let's get those words in writing about their guarantee as well, because we're not seeing that in their presentation. And I think that's very key.
If we need to, we can have Ashley come speak.
And I
again,
think
but also
Ashley
we
needs
need
to come speak.
We need to also talk to Corla, so that,
Yeah.
we'll look at that.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But I also know that we can't linger too much on this because the clock is ticking on the tax credits for HVAC as well, some of those components.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, Erin.
Do we have any public comment?
Well, Jill Stansberry missed the deadline to officially sign up, but she would like to ask if she can speak.
I'm okay with that. Say, yes, please.
Thank you. You guys need a timer?
Yep, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Because I wasn't prepared for,
Sorry,
no, that's okay.
I wasn't prepared either, but okay.
Ready?
Thank you. I just want to voice my concern about salaries for next year. As a teacher, a longtime teacher, as a parent in the district, I'm very concerned whether or not we're going to have a full complement of teachers and parents in the classroom next year. The district at the negotiations on Friday offered a freeze in pay, so no raises, no steps, which is what you get when you've been here a year, you move to the next level just because you've been here a year. No discussion of cost of living allowance, which I found shocking personally, and disappointing. I feel like we're prioritizing paying off our deficit in 1 year. And from the numbers that the district presented, it appears that they're going to pay off 90% of the almost $1 million deficit in a single year. So they're utilizing all the savings through attrition and changing contracts, and not giving any raises to anybody to do that. I think prioritizing that over retaining educators, retaining all of our staff is a mistake. I'm afraid we're gonna have a balanced budget pretty quickly, which seems odd to say, but I'm not sure that we're gonna have teachers or parents or bus drivers or food service workers to serve our kids. So I'm gonna ask the board to please reconsider. Our next session or discussion is this Friday, so please reconsider how you want to approach salary for next year. Thank you.
Tom, Enrollment Task Force. What is it? Do you want to do it?
So as Tom makes his way up here and we get it on screen there, Tom spoke at the last business meeting or study session, whatever it was, and you talk so passionately about enrollment, you got appointed or.
He left before the meeting was over.
You got selected.
I called him the
As
next
you
day.
have, so.
Guess what?
You know, Tom, Tom and I met twice that way, and he's gonna just review some things and share some ideas and some thoughts. We'll kind of go from there, but it's been, I can obviously see that Tom has some perspectives that I think he wants to share, along with looking at the data that many of you have already seen
It wasn't sharing them?
and things like that, so anyway, yeah, so,
Well, he left the room, but you mentioned state championship runner.
yes,
He's one of them.
I saw him back there, yeah.
You're not proud, are you?
No, let's start off by bragging a little bit.
You gotta go see him run again now.
Yeah. And talk about the bus drivers, Dale, I've gotten to know Dale very well.
Dale's great.
When Dale, we were at a track meet, and the track meets, they there all day. He made $600 that day. You know, it's the task at hand here, the topic at hand. There's not a lot of introductory remarks that I want to make. I have talked this up with a lot of people. I think there's a lot of support behind it, but no one has been more helpful to me on this than Superintendent Myers. So I do want to publicly thank him. He really helped me a lot with seeing the big picture, a lot of the details, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And with that, we'll just jump right on into the details. And I'm going to violate one of the principal rules of presentations by reading to you. It's a principle to violate because it implies that you can't read yourself. But maybe I want to give it the intonation that it won't. Our mission that we're proposing to you guys, to the board, is to increase student enrollment by bringing parents and community members together to collect, analyze, and use accurate data and engagement strategies that highlight the amazing attributes CCSD has to offer to families inside and outside of Clear Creek, compelling them to join our educational family where academic excellence meets mountain adventure. We put that out for you to consider. And we thought we needed to go a little deeper to define the scope so that we don't get too broad trying to solve world hunger. The purpose of the Clear Creek School District Enrollment Task Force shall be to understand and improve upon the overall enrollment process, the enrollment status, barriers to enrollment that we hear, reasons they do enroll, positive attributes of the district, and related items connected to enrollment, all to increase student enrollment. So that's sort of our springboard. My idea that I bounced off a lot of people is to structure it this way, and that is to have a core team. Our thought now is 5 to 8 people that are the core team. A players, the A team, got to be on this. This is going to be a lot of work, a lot of intensity. The ones that join, and I'm asking each one of you 5 board members to nominate at least one person to be on there because we want to get started. I've got some people in mind already and have talked a little bit of it, but this, putting the core team together, is the first step. And then putting 3 focus teams to work with the core team. And they are data, which you're going to see a lot of here in just a few moments, but collecting data, analyzing data, and then using that data to drive our strategies. We have to make sure that we correlate and make them synergize together. The second focus team would be engagement. That's how we go about contacting people, setting priorities, that we're chasing the right things. Some priorities are going to be easy to get and quick to get, and we don't want to miss those. We want to get them right now. Some are going to require more effort, but they're big to get. And some, you may spend a lot of time and there's not much there. We need to make sure that we're not spinning our wheels in the wrong place. Methods of engagement. Obviously, communication is going to be key, and I'll talk about that just more in a little moment. Benchmarking, what I mean by benchmarking is that we go to those districts in the state that have increased enrollment and see what we can learn from them that we might be able to leverage in our efforts, success stories and methods that they have used. Lastly is marketing, and I sort of wish that I had seen all of that the lady was talking about when I first got here. So that's a little further into the future, okay? You'll see that in just a moment. But marketing, promoting, what's so great about us? Promoting it and learning the best ways to do that. And to make sure that what she's saying jives with what we're doing and that we're not going in opposite directions, that we multiply cumulatively what we're doing. We want to really quick now get a cheat sheet, a crib sheet. Some people call it just a one sheet that gives everybody in every part of our constituency a one-page highlight sheet. And I haven't had a chance to talk to her about it yet, but the presentation that Brandy made last week, maybe we'll ask her to do that. Maybe we'll ask her to do that. We can all look it over. But I think, is it going to turn out to be a refrigerator magnet? Who knows? But to have in front of everybody, what is it that we do so well and why do you want to come here? And we're all then singing from the same sheet of music, the highlights that we have. So that's the crib sheet. The website sheet, I did hear a little bit about that. Not the website, but the web page on why enroll. I think it ought to be why CCSD. Why enroll is kind of bland, but to me, it's a good web page. It is good, but she mentioned the videos in there need to be updated. It's got Colin Hendrickson in there. And Ed Isaacson does a beautiful job telling the great things. We just need to update it, give that website a little more pop, because obviously anybody considering go here, that's where they're going. So that has to be first class. It's good, it needs to be better. And in what type of media we're going to use? Printing material, videos, digital, social media, how we're going to leverage our media. And that's what this focus team will do. Of course, these teams will work together. That's our proposal for how to structure this. And we're wanting to get started really quick, really fast.
Hey, Tom, can I ask a question
Sure.
on that real quick? When you said 5 to 8,
That's
is
what
that
Francis said, yeah.
total or
No,
is it
good
5
question.
to 4?
Yeah.
Good question. 5 to 8 here. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have it exactly right. But I'm thinking that some of the 5 to 8 will parlay over here a little bit too. But that's 5 to 8 here.
For more.
I'm talking more. And in fact, if I could just wave a magic wand, I don't care who comes to the meetings. I don't care if 100 people come to the meetings.
Okay.
But we're gonna talk in a little bit about the formal organization of how you guys sanction us. But that's the short answer, or a little bit longer answer.
Sure.
5 to 8, some overlap here, but these are other people. Hopefully we get a good data person here. So hopefully we get a good marketing person here. Hopefully get somebody here that's graded, going out and figuring out, do we talk to people one-on-one? Do we have student peer-to-peer? How do we put all of that together? So that's what it is.
Thank you.
And please just ask me anything you want. So I'm going to drill down to what we're looking at for the data now, starting big and funneling down to us. So a lot of this, you guys have been here doing this. One thing to be on this board, you got to have a lot of listening skills, it sounds to me like, because you listen to a lot of stuff. But so you know some of this, and I want you to be a proof tester for what I've come up with, what me and Tom have come up with already. But let's look at just start working on the details and see where are we with enrollment right now today. Our current enrollment is 634. A question I would ask you, and I want the entire district, all of our people, families to think about, because you hear, Marcia even said it, and we hear it all the time, we're small. We are small, but we're not tiny. So the question is, are there more districts larger than us or smaller than us in the state? Another way to look at it is, of the 881,000 students in 179 school districts in the state, where do we rank in enrollment? Anybody want to venture a guess?
80.
About halfway.
Yeah, it's about.
About halfway. You can look at it, 50%. There are more districts smaller than us than larger than us. So that tells us something, doesn't it? We rank 87 out of 179. There's 86 larger and 92 smaller districts than us. And this shocks This should shock you. Of those that are smaller than us, average 21,700 students per district. Those that are larger than us, average 10,000 students per district. So there's great disparity. They average 236 students, 99. These bigger ones, there's 17 districts by themselves have more students than the smaller 92 combined. So it's great disparity. What is the message here? The message here is we have to sort of be careful when we compare ourselves to other districts, especially like the Jeffco, because they're 67,000. And so we just have to take that into consideration when we do that. Now, this is the most confounding slide that I'm going to show you. Why do I say that? Because it makes no sense. These are our pupil enrollment, pupil attendance by grade. And so, change sides a little bit. Our highest grade, 6th grade, and our lowest grade are side by side. That means they're 1 year apart. How'd that happen? And another message I'm going to say here is we all want to speculate on why do we think that happened, but we don't know. Maybe somebody knows. I think we need to be careful when we make speculations about why we think something happened, because I can't explain it. I can't explain that my daughter Aspen at Georgetown Community School has 17 people in her 5th grade class, and there's 4 people in the 4th grade class. How'd that happen? What also I hear is, like Merrill back there is in the 10th grade, and I hear that that class is the smallest class we have. But that's not what the data shows. It's actually pretty level, right? Across high school. Now let's talk about our history, our rate of decrease over the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, we've seen a 29% decrease. You hear we've had a 50%, a 70% decrease. You can hear anything you want to hear. We've gone from 896 at the highest to 634 now, 29%. The good news is in the last 5 years, we've gone from 717 to 634, 11.5. So the slope is flattening out. We want it to hopefully turn back up. We think we can do that. Statewide, over the last 10 years, it's been 3.5%. We're doing worse than statewide. It's 3.5%. This is just a little bit more detail on that. You can see the slopes. COVID year is a little bit of an anomaly. I just kind of worked on both sides of it, and it makes good sense to do that, it seems to me like. These were bad years. These were bad years. We were from 2015 to 2020, we were losing 35 students per year, 4% per year. The good news is from 21 after COVID, we've gone from 696 to 634. That's losing 15 students per year. A lot better, right? Oh, another way to look at it, over the past 10 years, we've lost 256 students, averaging obviously 25.6 per year. Over the past 4 years, we've lost 62 or 15.5 per year. Again, it's getting better. Now, this one is pretty basic. I don't exactly know what this one's saying. You guys may be able to help. In the past 5 years, statewide, 2/3 of the districts have lost enrollment. Whereas conversely, 1/3 obviously has gained. You presented that in your presentation last, and these all jives. These are not exact numbers, they're general numbers. But the question is, where do we rank on that? Where does Clear Creek rank? Clear Creek ranks about right there. We're about at the bottom of the top third or the top of the second third. We're about 2/3 on the bad side. Okay, yeah, please.
Do you happen to know how many of the districts that have lost are rural versus urban?
No.
I'd be curious.
That's a good question. I hope somebody's we've got it recorded, hopefully. And I can tell you can chase this data so far down rabbit holes, and some of them, again, you say, why am I doing this? And then all of a sudden you realize you missed something. They missed something, they missed that. I could speculate, we all could maybe have a different opinion, but there are so many small rural districts, so many. It's just
Curious.
unbelievable.
Talking about comparing like districts to like districts,
Exactly.
I think comparing
Like-
ourselves to rural is important.
Like, obviously, if you were thinking strategy-wise, you might say, let's find a couple of districts that are similar in size, similar in demographics, similar in being a suburb of Colorado Springs or the other side of Denver or Fort Collins or something like that, Boulder, whatever. If you're gonna compare, you do have to think that. So that's a good question.
I do know a
Rural
lot
versus
of
urban.
the like kind of northern districts like Windsor, Fort Collins, those are growing because those communities are growing at a very big clip, partly because they're in Weld County and there's a lot of oil and gas production and a lot of money and a lot of growth. And so
Same.
that's where a lot of those
Yeah.
gaining are. So they're not small or rural.
Or I think also like Strasburg, for example, it's people moving out of the city, you know, they're priced out of the city, so they're moving out rural that's close to the city, but it's cheaper, you know, so there's advantages, which is not us. Yeah. Which is not us.
The message here is that losing enrollment is not a given. It's not a foregone inevitability. We can change our mindset to say we don't have to continue losing. Now, really getting down into some deep weeds. The number of school-aged children who reside in our county or in our district, but don't go to school in our district. What's that number? I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not. Should you hear everything? Last year it was 195. This year it's 179. Specifically, we had 32 students transferring in and 195 out for a net loss of 163. I don't want to be smart aleck and all, but when I'm sitting here thinking about this and thinking about the budget, that's a lot of money. That's $1.5 million minimum, right there. This year, we had 29 transfer in from other places, 179 out, net loss 150. Where are they going? There you can see. Oh, the only one that's in double digits is Byers. Why is Byers highlighted in red?
Homeschool.
The homeschool. I know you guys are working on that. I'm not going there, other than to say, if I'm going to be selfish and say to help the task force, number one, Byers beat us in football, and we got them this year, we're going to beat them. So I already don't like them. And then to think that they're taking $110,000+ away from us makes me kind of salivate at that or think about it. So I know you guys are working on it, but just know that when we play them, they're getting a good bit of our money. Which one's missing from here, this list? 128 go to Jeffco. 70% of the kids in our district that live here, that go somewhere else, 70% of them are going to Jefferson County. I mentioned another homeschool, I get TBD. This is a question I think we need to answer. I don't know the answer to it yet. Tom, I don't know if you've gotten more chance to look at it yet, but how many of the kids, these are the ones that are going somewhere else, but how many are here just not going anywhere or being homeschooled by themselves? I think that's an area worth probing a little bit deeper. If he tells me that if they go to school here 3 hours a day, 3 classes a day, we can take credit for them. So that is another target audience that we need to be looking at. When we lose them, when do we lose them? This is kind of hard to understand a little bit because the data is kind of wonky. If there's small numbers, they won't put it because you could identify the student. But what we need to understand, I think I'm right on this, is that we lose them starting in middle school is when they tend to leave. Almost 2/3 leave between 8th and 12th grade. A smaller leave before that. Why does it break off in 7 and 8? It's got to do with the small numbers over here on this side. But boy, talk about retention and losing, the ones that we're losing. That's the place to do that. So,
I think, you know, Tom, one thing we talked about with that one there was, we don't necessarily know, and I'm talking to Michelle on this, that way she's
Okay.
gonna run something that she hasn't got it.
oh yeah,
But we don't necessarily know, are they leaving and going to Jeffco, are they leaving and going this way, or are they moving out of the state? You know, that was one thing.
some of them are legitimate.
Exactly.
Some of them are legitimate, they move. But the ones that we're really
They're
wanting
still living.
we want to influence the ones that are consciously making a decision to leave us. There's no good reason for them to leave us, in my belief. And we have to make that case. And that's the engagement part of it and the strategy part of it. So in wrapping this up, here's the decisions I think that are before you that you need to be thinking about. Number one is this an issue worth tackling? Because it's going to be a lot of work. And I think a lot of people are ready to go on it. I know I am. Can we win? Can we win now in the short term between now and the start of fall school and beyond? Can we stop the bleeding, short-term immediate bleeding, reverse these negative trends and affect long-term gain? Can we do that? I'm not going to put the answers out there. I think you know where I stand on it. The question is, are you guys, are we willing to put forth what it takes to do it? Are we looking at the right data? And are we applying the data properly? Because the data is infinite. You can just go and go and go and go and go. There's so much to be found. Can we mine out the why families choose to go elsewhere or nowhere? What are their reasons and what are they really trying to understand why? Why would you choose to leave us? Next, what gains can be made with homeschooling? I'm not trying to get out of my lane too far, but I think it's something that's worth considering because it's money. It's every student is money that we would be losing. And so can we address homeschooling? What will we do now to improve the retention of the students that we have? Especially, I think, right when they come here in middle school and going through high school, which that's 2/3 of the people that are leaving, is to work on retention. Are we willing to embrace friendly competition with other districts? Specifically who? Jeffco, on our Eastern Front. That's what I want to start calling it, the Eastern Front. That's where the battle will be waged over there, primarily. And lastly, using a questioning attitude, what have we missed? If we missed something that we shouldn't miss, other opportunities are, as Aaron said, low-hanging fruit. So where do we go from here? This is my proposal. This is what I think we do go from here. 3 phases. Phase 1, get your sanction, get your approval. And we'll talk about that at the end. You guys, it'll be up to you. We have a proposal that we think we have. Carrie Ann and Tom are going to talk about it. Announce this project district-wide, assemble the teams, start the meetings. I'm hoping next week. I'm hoping because you guys got a meeting on Monday. I'm hoping we get everything codified come Monday and we're running with a meeting later next week. And continue to collect and analyze the data. Phase 2, get our engagement strategies going. Track, I'm a believer in having I've got somebody in mind to be the recorder of the team and have our action items where we know what the status of them is, nothing falls in the crack, and we stay on schedule, tracking our action items formally. Developing a broader scale communication plan and marketing and start to marketing. Phase 3, evaluate the strategies to see what's working, what's not, refocus, readjust, modify what we're doing, refine, hone, and fine tune what we're doing. Leverage our success. When we see what's working, let's do more of that. And then when we see what needs to be tweaked, what can be done better. And in my career, especially in consulting, the thing that I see that's the hardest to do is when a company or when an organization starts something and it's not working, they don't know how to stop it. So we want to be able to, if something's not working, stop it. So the question that you might have on your mind, I would maybe, is what's the timing on this? And it may shock you, and you guys will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking 1 month, 2 months, 3 months that we get these phases going. I think that's very ambitious and very aggressive. But if we don't get going now, if we get going now, we might can have some effect come the fall. What do you think?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that the one thing that Tom brought up there is, as we move into the future, what is you can stay up here, Tom.
Okay.
You can talk about all this stuff, but, when we look at this, so how does the board want to go about this? I mean, does it need to be, or do we choose to have it as a board, a board sanctioned group, a resolution to create this group of 5 to 8 members? And honestly, that's a number that I copied off some other past resolution here. I threw that number in, and I think Tom and I both thought, yeah, that sounds about the right number, but there's gonna be more people involved in that. Or is this a separate group that just meets on its own and comes back and reports to us and things like that? There's different ways of looking at it. The first one, there's organized, the schedule of meetings, there's no secret conversations, anything like that. But I'm telling you right now, there's people having secret conversations about enrollment on their own. So you can look at it either way, and I honestly don't have I don't really have a real preference on it.
I think my question is, which of those structures provides, I think, the most kind of flexibility to do the things that need to get done, to have people come in when they want, come out when they want? So initially, it seems to me like not having it as a sanctioned thing, because then we have to make sure we've got the right segment of the people in there, that they keep showing up, that it's doing all these things, versus kind of like how we have like the PTOs and the boosters presenting to us on what they're up to, the things that we should know. And I'm just kind of wondering the merits maybe of both, and if anybody has any opinion, because to me, it just feels like sanctioning it puts maybe unnecessary restriction to the work, and may make it harder to recruit the 20 people that you're going to want for all these different pieces. But I might be seeing that wrong.
I think that there's probably a hybrid that can happen to where, we're not in the situation where, I'm sure you'll remember, with another group that we had where their subgroups were meeting without letting other people know, and so there was this big turmoil. And I think, everything already always starts out, everybody's on the same page, working towards the same effort. But I think in this particular scenario, we can sanction it and say, do what you gotta do. I actually don't think that we appoint the members. I think we say, we want this sanctioned group, and we want you to follow the basic open meetings, open records kind of scenario, where you're just posting your 3 meetings where you're gonna get us to 500 new students. And then the only thing you guys really have to vote on are the minutes. And the minutes to me are so important, because when we were in that other scenario, we had the minutes. You can see in this scenario, it being a long-term kind of effort. Like, are we ever gonna get out of this mode? I don't know, but I could see it continuing on. And I don't want year 3 group starting over from, square A, when square A was already vetted, right? And if they have the information and the tracking and the historical data, then they have great wealth of information to move forward in their own way. I think it's just very important to have the tracking for something that's so viably important to our district. But I also don't want to hamstring any of us. I told them, go have your meetings and we'll catch up later. But at the same time, I do think that structure provides transparency, provides continuity, and improves the process going down the road.
I mean, I think the only thing that makes me feel like having it more formalized is just to make sure that there's really good regional distribution of members, that it's not just the enrollment task force is all Georgetown families.
Yeah.
No offense, Georgetown families. But that we're making sure we have members on the Eastern Front who are going to be able to support. And so that would be one of the things that I would think would be something to think about, is making sure that there's that geographic distribution. But then I also can talk myself right out of that.
And that's what
To participate, right?
that's what I'm hearing as I've tried to balance it. So let me tell you what my needs are. We don't want to be bogged down with bureaucracy. But to talk out of both sides of my mouth, we should post our meeting notices at least 24 hours in advance. Because we want,
You want people showing up.
we want people to show up.
Yeah.
And so we got to find, to me, the question is the legalities behind a hybrid. I would like to have a resolution from you guys to put parameters on it and things like that. I don't want us to be making motions and voting, but to reach near consensus, love to have 100% consensus on everything we do, and that be captured in minutes. That be captured in minutes that are done every month. And so if you guys can find, if it's legal to do a hybrid to where we do things fully transparent, fully open, fully forthcoming, but yet we're not sitting there making a motion to, accept every little
I
thing
mean,
that
you
comes.
don't have a budget, you don't,
We don't.
you're basically a advisory board.
That's what we are.
So there would not be a lot of motion voting going on, like I said, other than for the minutes.
And I think the minutes could be voted on for agreement, because that will be the historical record for future.
Say,
If you guys can work that out.
Could that not also happen though? If you come to our regular business meeting and
Yes.
give us an update, then those minutes are,
Then you
in our
have to
minutes.
go and dig for it and.
I think that an update needs, I've been thinking about this, obviously. That you guys should get an update every time you want it, but if you want to have it every month, I think you should get it every month. Not as long as this, because you guys, like I said, my ears would be falling off. But at least anytime you want it, once a month. And I do think we need minutes. I do think we need minutes to keep. And that's why I have in mind Joy Nichols, and I haven't asked her, she may watch it. But
Hi, Joy.
but she's helped us out so much, and she's such a detailed person that I would like for her, I'm gonna ask her. to
she's
do
on the
that.
Eastern Front.
Well, and then to Kelly's point about the distribution of membership, I think that we can write it in the resolution insofar as it's possible to, gather your membership throughout the district.
Well, that's the reason, Carrie, and pardon the interruption, but that's the reason I ask that, for example, Erica knows way more people over there and knows, like I've got another name in mind, a lady that over there is I just found out she's a PhD, but she was here, Heidi. I want to ask her because she seems, but I want you to weigh in on who you think. That's why I would like for each one of you not to appoint the team necessarily, but to nominate, give me at least one name in the next couple of days.
We
one
already,
name.
Kelly and I already gave you a name. That was you.
Oh, okay, that doesn't count. So, thank you for listening.
Thanks, Tom.
I do
Thank you.
I do want to hit the ground running next week, if possible. Means I gotta connect people, contact people tomorrow and,
We're so very appreciative. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
So Tom, what I think before you leave, so what I think I heard people saying was that we would develop a resolution, pretty broad resolution,
Mhm.
just saying the members are members from across the area, I'm down here, spanning the district borders.
I would posit that we've got folks that are in district that live out of district, that some of those might be just as important too, so.
Yeah, exactly. There's only a few people that are, there's gonna be multiple
Kelly
people.
has a.
It's gonna be more than 4 or 5 people, obviously.
I have another just kind of tactical question. I met with some constituents last night and they were talking about kind of sort of how schools do, I'm calling it a career fair, but that's not what I mean, obviously, but setting up kind of booths and stuff of like, come here. And I'm wondering if you think that the enrollment task force would do some of those like boots on the ground.
I do.
Go out and do.
I
The
do,
marketing.
most
I
definitely.
think that's really
That-
important.
And guys, you got a lot to think about. I got one thing to think about, this. But under the core team of engagement,
They would go.
that would
Yeah.
follow, there would be multiple strategies.
Okay.
That's one. What I think I'm an expert on Georgetown because I go there and I had 2 kids go there. But our Thanksgiving meal, and we just had a talent show late last week, packed. And so, and to have a presence there and to highlight, I just don't know if we're highlighting everything we need to highlight the way we need to do it. That's the whole stress of the enrollment, of the engagement sub-team. Idea, that we didn't have that idea, that's a good idea.
It's like I
But
know
they would
Rocky
fit
Mountain Academy, they go to 8th grade and then at the end of 8th grade, they sort of have a school showcase or things where then they can decide where they want to go. And, and so you set up a booth and you do a thing. And I'm just wanting to know if
Yes,
in your vision, there's some kind of go out beyond the community to, steal those kids from Jeffco. And
Absolutely.
is that part of the design?
that is
Fine.
part of, my vision is fairly limited because of, I think by expanding getting the ideas from more people like what you just said will be very, very extremely beneficial. I know, for example, and I'm not wanting to say I hate to hear, well, we tried that and, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you didn't do a very good job trying it, whatever. But like when I think about Merrill, the 6th graders come here for some day that
Duster
they,
Day,
huh?
Duster Day.
Duster Day.
Thursday, I think.
Expanding that, doing more of that type of thing, having outreach to the schools, especially on where,
That data
I
from
wanna
6th
know.
to 7th was horrible. That tells a story right there.
Saying?
That data that you're showing from the enrollment from 6th to 7th.
7th, 8th.
I mean, 7th to 8th, my bad, yeah. So,
It's really 6 to 7 more than likely,
right,
because that's middle school.
right.
But the data is so small for that 7th grade, I couldn't get the numbers. I had to subtract it from 8th grade, 7th grade down.
It makes you think that the transition may not be,
And if we're thinking here strategically, I asked myself to know, and Scott Baines would probably know, from King Murphy, how many would go from 6th grade, come here, and how many from 6th grade go to Jeffco? I've heard 50-50, but again, that's just
I'm giving that number for you.
that is just low hanging fruit right there. Duster Day is one thing, but we gotta really make a case to that group.
okay, so Tom, you were in the middle of what you were hearing from us. Was
Sorry.
the
What was that? What was it?
broad resolution.
A broad resolution, and I may contact you maybe sometimes.
Sure.
A broad resolution, just looking at, approving this task force, maybe not even with a certain amount of numbers, but just approving this task force that would report regularly to the board or at the board's request or at your request, something like that, and have minutes of the meetings and things like that.
I do think in order to make it that you're subject to open meetings, you have to have some certain things. You can't be called a task force. So we would need to change the name a little
Task force
bit,
committee.
a commission or a committee or something.
that's right.
And then we would have to pass a resolution. I'm not comfortable with the one in our packet today. I think it's I think there's some errors in it and I think it is too restrictive to give you what
I
you
agree.
Yeah,
need.
exactly, I agree.
Where I would really like it to say like, we are establishing an independent an independent enrollment committee to be made up of a geographically diverse membership who will do 1, 2, 3 and report to the board. I mean, I feel like that's all I really wanted to say.
And it could be their mission statement
Uh-huh.
that you
Yes.
created as well.
Yep,
right?
and
Just make
that would be
that
it.
simple, and then that way you can go flying. And then we pass the resolution that keeps everything on the transparent as well as the continuity side. I like that. I think it'll work.
And I like the word independent, that,
Well, I think that's how it's
Differentiates.
gonna be better. And, we want to put, I guess, like a little bureaucratic bow around it.
As do-
But just one little one.
as do I do too. I do not want to be freewheeling. That's a recipe for disaster.
And I think the only other piece that I think we would need to really articulate in a resolution is that we would expect to have regular written and verbal reports on activity. And I just think that mainly we would need that so that we're able to talk about the great work that you guys are doing.
Absolutely, and exactly, because that's the whole point, is getting more people talking about this objective.
And it could be like what we have on our agenda right now, where it just becomes the task force committee is a standing.
Yeah, like all our other ones.
Right, and then they can show up when you think it's feasible, and hey, we should probably let the board know we're doing this. That sort of thing.
Tom, I'll send you an email.
Okay, thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the time.
Tom.
Thank you for accepting your voluntold position.
And just for the
It
record,
would have been silly to.
it was Kelly's idea and I had to call you.
Well, I was trying to stalk you at the skate park gala, but you weren't there.
No, don't. I'm already in trouble for that.
You didn't see me win the snowboard?
I did. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
So that leads us right into some other engagement opportunities for the community. So anybody who's interested should contact, engagement opportunities and then legislative.
Got it, my packet is on the board. I got it. So,
It's okay.
let's do it.
All right. So again, if anyone is interested in participating in any of these, you can contact any of us as board members. You can contact Lori. We're still getting ourselves organized on some of these, but the top of the list, the Long-Term Facilities Planning Committee. Kelly and Carrie Ann have talked with us about that over the last few months. Right now, what we're asking for resumes, like maybe a cover letter, or are we preparing, do you have a letter?
I have a letter. Karen, have you made any?
I just had that oh crap moment, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's fine, that's fine. It's not, I mean,
I will
just
put that on
look
the
at it.
agenda for the more.
I'm telling you that I already have a member and I
Just send
sent
it to me,
his
just so
resume
I'll-
off to Aaron
And are we
and Tom.
doing a resolution for the long range planning committee? I think that makes a lot of sense.
Would make sense to do one that way.
Yeah.
Say,
Thank you.
did you just volunteer Tom for that too?
I did.
Okay,
I will
excellent.
try to get a resolution put together for that, but I think we'd still make it as.
Yeah,
as
sure,
things like
sure.
that
No,
before
you
we,
can't.
before we
Absolutely.
approve people for it that way.
Yep.
Then the District Accountability Committee, 2 months ago, we had the DAC present, their data, and they invited us not only to the community to join the DAC at the district level, but to really get engaged at your building and school level. So most of those are engaged in your PTOs, PTAs, booster clubs. So if you're participating in those, you are helping to get information back. There are members on each of those school accountability committees that are then representing the DAC on
We understand.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. But again, for that, you can reach out to your building leader or us as board members and we can help.
Just a suggestion maybe for the SAC back and back.
Mhm.
Now feels like a weird time to try to recruit for that as our school year is wrapping up. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe with back to school night, there could be something put in, that material for parents when they come in. Cause I think it might be hard to recruit people to get on a committee when we have 12 days of school
I
left.
think what I'm seeing of this is just, and I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's not necessarily to sign up
It's just a point
today.
of contact for the future. So
Okay,
we
got it.
have that point of contact identified so you can look back and see. But you're exactly right now people
I
aren't
think this
thinking
is in
about.
response to people wanting to get involved and that's just showing them how and when they can get involved.
And I mean, maybe we could be strategic enough to have the same message go to all of the schools about the building advisory and so that it's the same everywhere, even at GCS. And it's like, these are the same words so that people start to get accustomed to the same thing, the same cadence of meetings. And then that is an easier transition to the DAC perhaps, or to go from PTA to this, to that. But I think if we could be giving our principals the script to put out, I think that would also be a helpful thing to do.
I think that would be good. In fact, I have a meeting tomorrow. I'd be able to talk, otherwise before they leave for the summer. Yeah, makes sense.
Say, enrollment task force, we just talked about, but then the last being that we are hiring a new superintendent. And I wanted the community to know that we are going to be having opportunities for you all to meet our finalist candidates on, right now it's scheduled for the 5th and 6th of June. I do know that one candidate has a conflict on the 5th. So I have asked Chris if there are some maybe different ways that we can do that. Norm always had us in executive session, but other districts actually do their interviews in public. So I did not hear back from him before the meeting started. It doesn't look like I have a response from him yet, but I wanted to kind of leave that as an opportunity for us to discuss as a board as well.
I think that the
In
only
session.
issue with that would be I think if you do one way, then you've got to do the same thing for every other applicant.
And I think it's also assuming that that particular candidate makes it that far in the process.
Well, and yes, correct, it may be moot. But I just wanted to say that had been kind of that could be unfortunate if that candidate was selected. So in any case, that we can deal with on Thursday. But yeah, I just want to make sure that the whole community knows that there are opportunities for them to meet the candidates, to engage. We are going to collect feedback from everyone this time. We have set some characteristics that we would like everyone to evaluate as they listen to each of the candidates. And I had those in front of me before and I don't now, but things like longevity, their ability to communicate, their ability to manage assets, thinking capital and HR, but also their financial acumen. There's two more. In any case,
Financial is big.
financial is a very big one.
Asset management,
And I said asset management, yeah. So
leadership.
that's it. That's the one. But yeah, just, and then how do they fit in the community? That was the top of the list. I went backwards. But yeah, how are they gonna fit into the Clear Creek community? And as you've listened to everyone, we would love just a 1 being low, 5 being high, and we'll have a QR code that you can scan and everyone's data will then pool and we'll be able to really see trends so that we aren't missing anything. So that's one of the big changes going forward. I think, does anybody have any other questions or comments on the many enrollment or engagement opportunities before us?
We're always looking for volunteers at the Georgetown Community School kitchen. Anybody likes to slice and dice?
All right, on to legislative updates. Kelly gave us a great update in our meeting with the commissioners. We have reached the end of the state legislative calendar, or but are there any other highlights you'd like to lift up for us, Kelly?
I think there were a lot of education bills, certainly. I think a couple we were prepared for them to pass and maybe we're already kind of ahead of the curve, like cell phone use and cell phone policies.
Right.
So I think, and we had talked about some of the other defibrillators and some of those other kind of pieces. The the financial literacy that we talked about, that did pass, but the piece that a lot of us were concerned about the requirement to do a FAFSA to graduate, that was taken out of the bill. So the financial literacy bill itself did pass, but that one piece that we were all kind of like, ooh, do we love that? Do we not love that? That is out, so we don't have to decide if we love it or not. But I think I'm really pleased that our district was kind of ahead of the curve when it came to kind of the cell phone piece because it was coming, and there's some additional legislation. It's kind of questionable if it's going to get signed or not signed just around social media and what kids are exposed to on that. It wasn't necessarily within the educational space, but I think those two things kind of go together. But I think for the most part, the biggest change or the biggest piece is the House Bill 1320, the School Finance Act. And it's interesting, because we just had a school finance act in 24 that was never implementable. We'll see if this is implementable, and then we'll see if in 26 we have another school finance act that is implementable. But I think the thing that is important to know is how over time averaging is going to change. Unless we have a bill next session that does something different, but it is changing. So Tom's enrollment work is right at the right time, because we do want to count as many kids as possible. So I think that's what I would share for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jen, welcome. So would you like to come up and sit at the table, or we're gonna let everybody sit in the dark?
Save the energy.
Yes.
Low occupancy.
So,
There you go.
we're not moving enough, that's it, yeah. Yeah, did any board members have any questions from the monthly expenses?
In the interest of us being able to make it home in time before the sun is completely down, if it's okay, I'd like to email them to you, and then Tom can share the questions with the group.
That'd be great.
Good, I'll put them in board as long as we get them answered by Friday. We'll put them in.
Okay, good, thank you.
If not, I will send a special email out on Monday with all.
I'm sure you're not surprised I have some.
No, that's fine. That's,
If that's okay with anybody else, I don't know.
That sounds good to me. I don't have any this month.
okay, sounds good, let's do
Then
that.
we'll move on to budget work, which is also your new giant hat. Welcome.
And I've got some things on the budget here. So, send you that little, what I felt was useful for me, that little cheat sheet I sent to you, just to help you walk through it that way, but I'm not sure what questions people had, or where things are at that way.
Well, can we start with somebody walking us through the budget?
Yeah, let's throw it after that. Should all have that in your packet too, I believe.
Yeah.
Pull it up here. Get bigger. There we go.
Let's look at the general fund summary first.
One, and then one education. It's D5.
So the general fund summary there you have on your, we'll wait till it gets up there, because maybe you guys don't have it in your computer probably that way. The expected deficit we're gonna end with this year was projected around 920, estimated actual ended up being 678, and 920 projected, got reduced down to about 678. When you look at that way, when we look forward, going to 25, 26, now that's just taking in that $500,000 in cuts we had. It's gonna end up about a negative $94,000 in that regard. Down at the bottom are those revenue assumptions, kind of said they're looking at an assumption of losing about 17.7 when we look at averaging and other things with that as well. Just kind of get an idea there. Expense assumptions, some savings from not doing one-time stipends, technology savings, staffing adjustment savings, then also an increased cost of new classified schedule if that's adopted, and then decreased transfer of food service that way too. You can see that in the first page of the general fund summary. In that regard, there's also some contingencies in there in salaries for the superintendent and high school principal salaries, some changes that may be made there. Purchase services, remember, is that's our BOCES, special ed, other special services, school psychologist, speech language, stuff like that. And some other things, custodial we talked about there too. So questions on that one here? not, we can.
Well, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
just, I'm trying to formulate my question
for it.
that makes sense. So can you speak to how it is that we are? Let me think about it a little more and keep going, sorry. I have a question, I just don't.
It's fine. How about to the next page though, if that's okay?
Sure, question.
Next page would be the general fund for the high school. The one thing you notice there, there were some changes to the budget for the high school, just based on how things are being placed. And correct me if I'm wrong, in this, Kristen, from BOCES and admin central office going to the buildings now for count structures. That's the biggest change. When you see a difference in numbers there, that's where that change is coming from as a whole in that regard.
Is this showing that we're planning to be $250,000 in the hole for our estimated actual 24-25?
Which page are you
Because we
on?
have,
On that
at the
page
very
again?
first sheet,
Oh,
right?
First sheet again?
So we have the budget of 5.5, and then we have an estimated actual of 5.7. So that gets us into a negative, right?
Where are you taking, where were you getting your 5.5 at?
she's
On the
looking at the
budget, fiscal year adopted budget.
Oh, okay. That is, it was budgeted at 5.5, we're estimating ending at 5.7 on the bottom line there, that's then carrying up to the top line and beginning fund balance.
So that's $250,000 difference, right?
Roughly 250, yes.
In the
that
hole.
regard. And
Say,
yes,
that's the fund balance. That's
Right.
what we're carrying forward, so what we have in our long-term savings.
Right.
So we have more in our actual than we estimated.
yeah, I was incorrect.
Okay,
backwards.
I have it backwards, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I had
And that's,
backwards as well.
that's
You
why.
confused me, Carrie
I
Ann.
was grappling with
You
how to
confused me,
ask the
Carrie Ann.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, I
Okay.
appreciate that.
All right. So anything on the high school, Quick Creek High School there, anybody wants to kind of give some overviews of that?
Now, is this with the assistant principal?
That is with that in there right now, I believe, yes. And with school administration, I talked about how Brandy's salary and the assistant principals are split between, so it's not a true, it's just the way it's budgeted out. Brandy comes from one, two assistants come from another, for the middle school. Just, it's not split up
Okay.
probably the correct way, but there's no way to say, well, this is this and this is that way either, so. Okay.
I like how, and this is where I've seen it before, like on the last year's budget per school, where it shows our cost per FTE student. Now later on, we get into the food service and it has like $5,000 per student. Is that on top of the, let's say we're at Clear Creek High School and it's 15,000 per student, does that mean with the food costs, we're at 20,000 per student?
That would be, that's not included in there right there. No, it's not.
Okay,
Remember, these numbers are put in there and they're accurate, but they're,
oh, sure.
as
No,
I
get it.
mentioned, they're not 100% accurate because of the way things are split up.
Right,
Let's go to the middle school one here. Remember, the high school has more students than the middle school, more staff than the middle school.
mm-hmm.
That was just one thing to recognize
Well, there's all
there.
kinds of reasons, sure.
Yeah, kind of see some things there. Any big questions there?
Are there any changes that you should speak to on this one?
Not significant. I think there's a different way that we're, when you look at school administration, that number went from 29 to 34, and that's just based on how things were arranged. Some instructional there, a little less instructional, and that's based on a couple teachers, basically, overall, for the budget reductions. I'm gonna move to Carlson Elementary. And once again, the BOCES was in general admin, but now it's moved to the school buildings. That's gonna go with all these that way. Instructional there went down a little too for the same reason we talked about before, the middle school or high school. Both those, I guess.
The middle school admin budget blows the other admin budgets out of the water.
Because that's,
We've got two at,
Yeah.
assistant
the APs are
AD,
charged to the middle school. And the high school principals charged to the middle school, high school principals charged to the high school. The two APs are charged to the middle school, just based upon the way it was put into the budget. That way, instead of trying to split them up 100% evenly,
That's always been like that.
it's been done like that.
Well, I just know that if I were a teacher looking at this, I wouldn't be very pleased with the high percentage of admin. So if we need to move that around because it's not accurate, then maybe it needs to be shifted a bit. I mean, that's a lot of admin.
Middle school, high school is hard to differentiate that though. And I also follow what you're saying. I also understand what you're saying.
So then we'd almost have to take the admin for this and high school and make that the average.
You'd almost have to take the amount of students in each building and just divvy and split those up between them. Which probably could be done, but it's still gonna be the same amount of money. Overall, it's still gonna be the same amount
It's
of
the
money.
same pot, but it's good to see the
Yeah.
differentiation between each building.
We could set the lines that they're pulled from as percentages for like the principal salary. And
Oh,
divide
sure.
each of them amongst
Then it's
two
allocated.
for next year. I mean, this is proposed already, but if we wanted to do a revision and then divvy it out, 67% to the high school or whatever the FTE is,
could you
comes out
move,
to, it's an easy fix in our salary. to do
Would
that.
the-
We
And
would
then-
fix it, like it would be set at the beginning of the year. It wouldn't change every time the numbers fluctuate.
Yeah, you wouldn't. do that.
But we don't have to charge just the principal to the high school if we wanted to see it reflected differently or combine this data for the future, or we could do 67% of the salary to the high school and then the other.
That's
there
something to
any-
talk to Kathleen about.
Is there any benefit as you're kind of having that conversation to think about what would it look like if the page that we're looking at, the Clear Creek High School, could then have / middle school and they could just all be on one page?
That's probably a question for Kathleen, in all honesty. Unless you have some input on why it's not that way. I don't know why it's not that way.
the state probably wants to see it.
There are two
I
separate
know why,
schools and they have
yes.
two separate
Yes.
identifying numbers.
Okay.
They would have to actually be one school.
They have to have it
That's
that
what-
way.
So we consider it one school, it looks like one school, it feels like one school, but we need to remind ourselves in our universe that it is two.
Because the Colorado Department of Education views it as
As
two
two.
separate schools.
That makes sense.
That's
Well,
exactly-
if we want it to be one school, we can go through the process with CDD. It's not easy and it's not short, but it can be done, and I've done it before.
Well, I think if it's going to be two different schools, then we need to make sure that things are being allocated appropriately in the budget.
And I think by the time we roll payroll for next year, if that's something we wanna do, it isn't a lot of work and it could have every salary appropriately allocated.
I think it makes a lot of sense, although I do see one potential pitfall that I just think we should think about. Publicly, as maybe a very detail-oriented parent who's considering what school they'd like to send their kids to might pull this up and be like, they only have a 0.67 principal.
Mhm. Yeah.
That might be concerning to me as a parent that a high school doesn't have a full-time principal, or at least it wouldn't appear that way on our budget. And so I just want to be
There's
a little bit
drawback.
conscientious of that, because I think for me anyway, I would look at a budget before I went to a school, and that would be a red flag to me, or to be like, wow, your middle school doesn't even have a principal, you only have an assistant principal, even though that's not functionally how we operate.
It's not accurate.
I do just worry that making it so it's easy for us to understand, or maybe for our educators to understand, might make it complicated for our families and our potential new families
I
to
think
understand.
it's more important that for us to be reality based on where our numbers are and not be so worried about what the marketing piece of our numbers are. And I get what you're saying, but conversely, maybe somebody's gonna see that 0.7 and say, great, they're not spending a crap ton on administration.
Right, because they don't
Yeah.
have one.
Right, and
So
they like that.
I struggle with that.
But I think that that's more of a marketing piece and not a financial responsibility piece.
I mean, I think it's fine how it is, but if we're gonna talk about changing it, I think we need to recognize the good parts of changing it and then the less good parts of changing it.
I would also just throw into that we are on Jen is on like day 4, and we are on our 3rd director of finance in a year and a half. So there's been a lot of changes as different people have come in. For better or for worse, Leah did an entire overhaul of the system. So it's not gonna look like it did a year ago. And so I think we also need to probably give Jen some time to
I agree.
figure out how she
Oh,
wants to run
absolutely.
her books.
I agree.
But I do appreciate the feedback, and I'm happy to take all of that into consideration if we do wanna make changes, because you make a good point, you make a good point. I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to all the way we wanna arrange this.
I mean, some of it is I don't want to say as simple to like make it overly simple, but I mean, maybe it's an executive summary to the budget to explain some of those pieces.
Right.
And then maybe we don't
There
have to
should
change
be an
anything at all.
executive
And it's
summary.
just like, let's write a few paragraphs to help explain some of these things. And maybe that's,
Every
the easy
government
solution.
thing I've done, you have to have an executive summary.
There's a nuance to every
Yeah.
bit of it.
right,
Right.
exactly.
Details to each
It's just the
one.
high level,
High level overview.
yeah.
And this is just, I mean, this is kind of what that is, more of a high level, and we took notes to kind of just explain some of the discrepancies, but
We come across in some facilities too.
Yep.
We just spoke about it today. We have a elevator charge, and it was charged to the middle school. Well, who uses the elevator? Middle school and high school uses the elevator, so.
Yes.
it's not-
Only middle school. I said kids can't use it. I said staff can't use it. Nope.
Just scan
Like
the
that
badge.
contract.
do we just put it under high school, or do we put a budget in both, divide it by 2? Sometimes the bill says high school, sometimes it says middle school,
Depends on who's-
same
Yeah,
element.
I have one budget for 4 condo buildings and we split things up. You know,
Yeah.
it's easy.
So I can talk, I think we'll talk to Kathleen when she gets back next week. I think she's back to the middle of next week.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get us.
No, it's a good question, it's a good question. I think we're on King Murphy, if I'm right. I didn't have a whole lot there that's kind of sitting on staff. I
So
think
we
it's
just have
nice.
some attrition things happening there that we're not rehiring for. Is that correct? From your summary on King Murphy?
King Murphy, go ahead.
Are you looking at like the special ed?
I'm just looking at the budget. We had some not hired back, right, at King Murphy? Am I remembering that wrong?
There was a
1.5,
retirement.
Yeah, okay, right, that's what I just want to portray it to the public, guys.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we had a kindergarten teacher, we had 2 sections of kindergartens, going to 1 section in first grade.
Right,
That
right,
way.
thank you
That was
for
me, and
explaining.
Our teacher that went from 1.0 to 0.5. So that kind of explains that a little bit. It's a good point. People can understand that. We look at the district office, look at that. The budget went a little lower this year, but that's because what I mentioned before, some of those things went to the buildings instead. BOCES went to the buildings where they're being used at. The buildings are utilizing actual enrollment for the amount of kids there, where the district is using the average enrollment. And talk to Kathleen about that and why that, because I mean, also because the buildings have certain amount of students that they're educating. The district is based on that average enrollment, if that makes sense. Transportation and maintenance, I think is the next one here. Classified, any increase there will be due to the classified schedule if it's adopted. That's the biggest reason for that increase there. Just recognizing that will.
So we recognize just all drivers as bus drivers.
Yes. Yeah, all drivers are recognized as bus drivers. Maybe that's a confusing thing for people, but yes. Good question. That's about it there, I think. District maintenance and operations. type of thing there, and everything. Yeah, but same thing with this cluster schedules. Any question on that sheet before we move to the next sheet? Right now, at least.
We're good.
The next sheet is the building fund. Some of this is bond arbitrage interest. See that number, 2.4 million on the arbitrage way down towards the bottom, right above total expenditures in bold there. We're gonna need to pay back approximately that much based on the interest that we gain, the money from that.
But that's been set aside.
That's yes, and that's set aside, that's not, in fact, we're intentionally not spending, that's a conservative number, I believe. What Kathleen said, it's a conservative number, but we'd rather have a little more in that regard that way. Carlson, that 95,000 is bond money, for, some asbestos removal, things like that for the ECE. That's just money that's there right now. The roof project and GCS painting will be for bond funds. In fact, I was gonna put in notes too, maybe I have it in there, maybe I typed it in already, but they're gonna start painting at Georgetown on roughly June 2nd, and the same with the roofs will start at this building and King Murphy on June 2nd as well. That's the tentative date. It could be a few days later than that, but that's the plan for that to start. So, but roof project GCS painting will be from bond funds, with that interest from bond funds. Speaking of bond funds, that's the next sheet there. We'll continue to pay the 2022 bonds, June, December annually. See that there. We're only paying one bond.
Only,
Yeah.
we need more.
Yeah. On the cap reserves fund, right now it's budgeted just like we did last year. Our last fiscal year was put 100,000 in that. Remember in the past, the district had put in, I believe, 750 or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly, to build that up. The TMF activity on there, we saved from what was projected out, estimate out, over $1 million, $1,051,000. I don't know if that's on here exactly, you don't see that, but that's just so you kind of know that. Payment each year for that's $330,000. The payment comes from the general fund. Now, this is where I want Kathleen to explain this when she's back here, but we could pay off part of that and save some money, but then by doing that, there's two different ways of looking at it. I remember talking to Leah about the same thing. Is it better to pay it off or not? Well, you're gaining some money from interest on the money you have there, and you're using it for other things, so there's some different ways of looking at it in that regard. So that's kind of the cap reserves. So many stuff you want to.
Would you tell me what the 65,000 for vehicles is?
55,000.
That's gonna be a
In the
small vehicle.
Cap reserve
purchase.
fund, it says vehicles. We haven't spent any money on that since 23, but we have 65 in the budget.
Well, because we're going to likely need to buy another small vehicle
We don't have a driver.
at some point. Because we don't have a driver, we don't have to worry about it. There's one way of saving money.
Yeah.
That's just an estimate there to look at getting a small vehicle.
Is this correct though? Because we have spent money on buses, isn't
Yeah.
that part of vehicles?
Not
Farm
since, it's okay if you look,
Levy.
Can I comment on that?
look at knowledge, and this that I think would be beneficial to hear. Go ahead, Gross.
So we are behind, I don't know what that 65,000 is,
I was just gonna say this, but
but
go
we
ahead.
are, behind on what we've been supposed to be doing on a bus and a small vehicle from the whole mill thing, remember I talked about last year? So we are already a year behind getting a bus and a year behind getting a small
Let's
vehicle.
get an electric one.
So small vehicles are gonna be $65,000, so I don't know what that is.
And then at the same time, we could also talk about the maintenance vehicles that were,
Right, that very well could be that, but we have not done what we were technically supposed to have done by getting a small vehicle bus. So we just lost a small vehicle. And
I
was
thought that we were
tonight-
supposed to buy a bus every other year.
We were, and it was supposed to be small vehicle, then bus, small vehicle, then bus, we have not done either. We're out of whack on all of those.
But the mill language also said that we could spend that money on retaining teachers.
teacher salaries, yep.
Right.
So we
Same pot.
have used that for that.
So there's,
So we don't know what the 65 is.
No.
is
Yeah.
well,
The answer to the question.
I think, I
Don't
mean,
know.
you know,
Let's take it out.
65, as I mentioned, that maintenance vehicle is another one that we need to look at as well. So there's 65,000, ultimately getting back to Brooke's point, I think, 65,000 is probably about $150,000 short. I'm just being honest with you, I mean,
Well, I mean, I'm asking the question because it doesn't seem to be attached to anything, because
Well,
it's too much
normally
for one
it
thing
was
and not
always
enough for the other.
$50,000. In the budget, if we look back, it was always the, 50.
Well, we don't have anything in here for several years.
and I think
Maybe I've been here too long, but I thought we pre-purchased the 24 bus in 23 because
We
there was
did.
a long wait time.
We did, but it was we were still up a year. And I have it all I have it all just because I don't.
Okay.
I remember Leah sharing that with me as well. Towards the start of the year, we talked
Right.
about that.
I came to you guys in January to get it, but we didn't pay for it until July.
Okay.
You guys just approved it to get it going, but we went
But I'm
up.
not seeing that on here
It's not
either,
on here.
and it should be here.
But that was not last year, it was your. that was
It's,
two
that's
years.
also not on here.
Mhm.
Fiscal year 23 is when that was purchased.
No,
No, it was,
24.
no, it's 22.
It's 22.
Was it 22?
Yeah, it's
I
been.
want to say,
I have all that back, I'll get with.
I think it's
I
22.
wasn't on the board in 22,
Yeah, no, you were, yeah, no.
but we did pay for a bus while I've been on the board.
Maybe it's not on this fund.
I can check it, I'll check with Kathleen.
Yeah, let's find out where our, because that's, our bus numbers need to be in here.
Yeah, I can.
Well, I just did all those, Jessica, I sent all those invoices to you.
yeah, but that's it. I don't see the bus that I know we approved since I joined the board. So
what we're gonna
that's
say.
what I was,
We'll figure
You
that out.
should be showing up with
it-
it.
and maybe it's not in this fund. I don't know where,
I don't know where else you could have approved.
yeah. But
I'm just wondering if it could have been in the service center transportation.
That's what I was just wondering.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
847,000. I will check with Kathleen on that. That's my bet where it's at.
That's my
If I
guess
had
of
to
where
bet,
the
that's
bus
my-
is at, but I still am curious
Yeah,
what the
I'll find that
65 is for.
I won't find out till the middle of next week or something.
Oh, that's fine.
The grant funds here went from, roughly 9 million to $1.3 million for this upcoming year, which is good. Part of that, we had the Attorney General grant.
you mean 900,000?
Yeah, you
that's-
said.
It's like,
It actually went down about 8 million anyway. 900,000 to 1.3 million.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification. And part of that's for the Attorney General grant, and Easy Grant and stuff like that too. So there's some other things. And I know Sunny just, was approved for another one just recently. Just like, so that's a positive on some things there. Food service, there's been a small increase in food prices. I just met with Steve today. And just met with Steve today. We're talking about things as a whole. Each meal, each day, we get reimbursed $4.33 for. I asked him, do we lose money on that every day, or do we make money, you know, I
yeah,
mean,
it's
yeah, what's
average out
the?
over a week, a
Well,
month.
well,
I have a spreadsheet.
it obviously doesn't average out because we're deficit.
I know.
But he did, and ultimately, one thing you mentioned to me, you know, if you think about this, if we're losing money, if you're losing a nickel on a, not a, let's just throw that number out. The more people that eat that, the more money, so the more people you're actually serving, the more money we're actually losing, which makes no sense what I just said, but that's accurate. You know, so just, and he's trying to cut the prices down. And actually with the new, retailer this year, it's been better. That way, so-
Shamrock.
Yes, Shamrock.
Shamrock is the most expensive one, and you're gonna use up here, besides, specific US food things. So I have a hard time buying that we're saving money by using Shamrock.
Compared to what we were using the year before, he says we are, and I can check with him on that, but that's
Right,
what I know. It started of the year, I was told that way.
Yeah, I think that they were using US Foods.
They were using it?
They are the premium most expensive. The next one would be Shamrock.
Yeah.
They're also very expensive.
But the next level down, don't we need to go to them?
Well, depending, I
We
mean, I
get one of
don't,
those
he's,
small
he
vehicle
sat,
drivers
he
and.
sat here and told
they can
us
go
that
pick
he's
it up.
not really seeing the savings being a part of this group.
Okay.
That because they have to come up to the mountains, we're not seeing the savings. So,
One thing he's also doing, he's actually going to visit with a couple other schools our size in the state. He goes to a conference every summer. He's gonna try to visit with a couple other schools our size and go there and see what they're doing or how are they purchasing things. So he's looking into this more so. So that's his plan this summer.
it's tough, I mean,
Well, I
yeah,
just
It's-
don't know how long we can make this
transfer of
six-figure
100,000.
transfer. You know, I understand that we're bound by the law to participate in this program, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Someone had a conversation with me, it might have been one of you, I'm not sure,
It's
you
probably
know,
me,
can people pay for their own meal?
that was me.
They could make a
I think Marcy
donation.
and I are all-
You know, they could make a donation each month or every day or once a year, whatever, to the account. I mean, you could do that. One thing that I did look into, I talked to Steve and I talked to someone else about this too, you know, do we have to participate in the program? Not necessarily, but if you don't, then you're giving up all federal and state funding as a
All of
whole,
it.
all of it, not just food service as a whole, which
Yeah.
I would say would not be a good idea.
Yeah, I'm
You
not
know?
saying that that's a good idea.
But it is,
But
well,
it's just-
it's what you're saying though, we can't keep making $150,000 thing in there.
Do we have data on how many students maybe qualify for the free or reduced lunch that are not completing the paperwork? Okay.
The only way we know that officially is through, unless
Did we
they're,
see those numbers change significantly when we went to the free meals?
I believe I've asked that question, but I'm not gonna answer it right now.
Okay.
I believe the answer is yes, we saw a decrease in the amount of paperwork filled out. It also comes through electronically now too, so, but let me check, I can check on that.
Do we know whether or not, Steve has set up Georgetown with their own ability to order their own food so that he doesn't have to spend any time doing that?
Do not know that answer. I'll ask.
He did agree to do that a while
Okay.
ago.
Yes, we had, yeah, let me ask. I can talk to him on that. Next one here is preschool. We did raise tuition $50 per month for part-time and $100 a month for full-time. I believe that was one of the first increases we've had in a while. Quote me on that, but I believe that's one of the first increases we've had in a while. We're still transferring in there. This is also one of those things, it's an investment for the future to have the preschool, and we, you know, there's different ways of looking at that. We're expecting an increase in enrollment in both schools. Obviously, I talked about King Murphy in some meeting today. I don't know if it was commissioner meeting or this meeting, but
It was
some
5
meeting.
hours ago in this.
But just so you know, Julianne, the sun is going down, so we better wrap this up. But that's some information there. Pupil activity fund here, I had a question on this, and what, those are just the fundraising, money bringing in, fees being brought in, and things
This
like
is
that.
athletics.
Did we
Exactly,
show the
yes.
fund for the Clear Creek Sheriff's Department that they put together for our athletes and folks that want to do AP classes? Is that anywhere in their budget?
Yeah,
Probably here.
somewhere, I can check where that's at.
It does seem like this is where it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like it's where it should be.
Did we have any pushback in a loud way around the increased preschool tuition? Because I'm wondering if we should think about increasing again.
I have not heard a thing from anyone. but I'm only one
Seems
person.
like a great time
It
to
is
do it.
being increased for next year.
Is that reflected in the budget?
Yeah. This is the
That
increase for
is
this
the
year.
net, the
That's the
25,
increase for this
26, yeah.
upcoming year, not for this year, for the upcoming year. That's my bad if I stated
Got it.
that incorrectly.
Thanks.
Years, months.
Do you know, was it increased the year before?
It was.
Was it?
It was
Okay.
735 and it went to 805.
Okay.
Because I remember we have kind of slowly increased it.
It's from 735 to 905, that's
It's a
$170
decent
for
increase in 2
years.
years then. That's
per month.
And that 70 was for full-time,
It is for full-time.
so we're doing a larger, we're going to 100.
Yeah.
Increase per month for full-time.
I mean, I
So-
get that it's an investment into our future enrollment, but that feels like a pretty darn big subsidy.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll try to get some of those answers for you. If not by Friday, I'll get them to you Monday or next week.
Sounds good, thank you.
Just like-
And I'll send those questions so that
Yep, that sounds good.
the sun is setting.
All right.
All right, communications and marketing position,
And I suppose this came up in our
in our planning.
agenda planning
Yeah.
meeting about a communications marketing role, assistant principal role. We do have applicants for assistant principal. We have not contacted any of them to interview. We'd like to do that in the near future. I still believe that's a valuable role, kind of talk about things that person does. I know I'll be a new person, be a new principal this upcoming year as well. I still see a value in that based on this district and what they utilize things for. That's my take, and I plan on moving forward with that unless I'm told differently. But communication and marketing was another conversation, and I'll let Kelly or Jessica, you guys were in that conversation, talk a little bit more about that.
I mean, I'm the board member that asked about it. And I think, to me, when I kind of look at
That's out of the bag.
community feedback and I look at dialogue and I just listen, it all to me funnels to lack of communication. And I think we have tried in lots of different ways to try to just bolt that on to someone else's job. And I don't think that it is fair that the superintendent needs to be a marketing and communications person. I think it's even less fair that the human resources person is the marketing and communications person. And then I think it's even less fair as we keep going. And so I don't feel like that is a sustainable path to just bolt this on to someone else's job, especially as an assistant principal, because I would assume, and I'm going on a limb here, but I would assume that your education is different to be a principal than it is to be a marketing and communications person. And so I don't necessarily believe these are just any warm body skills. But I do think that we continue to struggle because we do not have robust communication, whether it is enrollment communication, whether it is look at all the cool things we are doing communication, whether it is we have a gas outage and we need to close the school right away and come in this communication. And so I feel like we have a tremendous deficit when it comes to communication. And I think that that is a very significant contributing factor to the vibes in our community when they think about our school, because if you're not a parent, you don't get any communication. And if you are a parent, you get some, maybe if you seek it out, if you're on the right distribution list, if you take all of your steps as a person, but communication goes both ways. And I just don't, I think we fall down here. And I think this is where we continue to have really significant gaps and challenged relationships in our community. I understand the argument that has been made. It's been made every year I've asked this question. And so while I appreciate this, and I understand it, and I'm fine if we just continue, I think then I would like to stop talking about these as problems if we're also not willing to solve them.
So how many schools of this size have a principal and assistant principal would be my first question. And I don't think it's very many that have that.
Two
We have two assistant
principals.
principals.
We have two, exactly, two assistant
I think
principals.
let me.
One and a half,
If I
right.
if I just interrupt there
Yeah.
just for a second there, on the second part there, so our one assistant principal is AD, and then he's also driving some with buses, he's also coaching, he's doing other things too, so yes, he's an assistant principal, but it is a little different realm. And
It
going
is.
back to your,
Go ahead.
sorry, going back to your first question, I would say that number is, and I don't have that number, I could get that, it's less than 50%. If I had to guess, 40%, but I'm just throwing a guess out here. I have some data on it, but I should have brought it with me in fact. Sorry, Carrie Ann, go ahead.
Oh, no, I appreciate what you're saying. I tend to lean on the side of, yes, we do need a marketing and communication person that everybody within this district can funnel the communication through so that we get that out in its entirety, the way it needs to be done. Kristen can focus on her thing, superintendent can focus on the box of things. Yes, I think that having an AD is super important and doing the coaching thing is super important, but we have an opportunity at this spot right now to realign the thing that we know is a problem with our budget. The budget tells the story. And I know that some people are, why are you doing any marketing? The marketing should go to the teachers, that sort of. Well, how are we going to get money for the teachers if we don't market how awesome we are? And a lot of the feedback that we're getting, I mean, I'm a school board member and yes, I'm not, thank you. I'm getting Kristen's emails. I get nobody else's emails. As a community member, you don't get crap from this district. Crap. Other than unless you're gonna go to the school board Facebook page and look for it yourself. It doesn't just pop up. You know, things aren't just popping up. And I think that regular old citizens are important as well, but ultimately it's the clientele that we serve, the parents that we serve that are telling us, and also the teachers who we also serve that are telling us this is a major problem. And I felt it myself. And, you know, we have an opportunity to course correct and I'd be for that.
And I guess the other thing I would say, and then I'm sorry, Eric, I stepped on your toes a little bit. There was a lot in Katie's presentation yesterday, feels like, that was really interesting. And so, I mean, part of me is like, maybe it doesn't need to be a whole position, because I can appreciate the arguments and I can appreciate why it is the way that it is. But maybe there's something else that we could consider. And maybe it's not a full-time position with salary benefits, but maybe it's a boost to Katie's budget in some way, if we could find that through some way. But I just, if I really do think about it critically, and I think about the feedback that I hear, and I think about the misinformation that I hear, and I look for information and I can't find it, to me, it just all comes down to communication. When we talk about, we'd love more social media posts. We'd love to see more interactive stuff on our website. We'd love to have current videos. Well, it's not appropriate or fair to ask other people to do that and expect it to be something that a marketing and communications person would produce. And I think we've done a really good job limping through. I'm going to rephrase. I think we've done an okay job limping through on that, but I really think, given our declining enrollment, our need to share the goodness that we have, we need to put money in that. And I think, have systematically spent less money on marketing and communications, and then been frustrated that we don't have the results from marketing and communications. And so to me, I just think it is worth consideration, and maybe it isn't reframing the assistant principal piece, but I think we are remiss to not at least talk about how to support that with something other than, Tom, add it to your weekly note. I just don't think that's sufficient.
Well,
I'm sorry, I stepped on.
The Katie thing, I mean, that's all great, but I think that that the school district needs a point person. And a Katie as a contractor may get pretty spendy at that point, right? Or what does that look like? She's catching 5 calls a day to put this out, put that out kind of thing. I would rather see it in-house and have her focus on what she is specifically doing.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. I fully support something for marketing, but I also think it's really good timing because we now have this enrollment task force committee who could work with the marketing person to make sure that whatever is coming out of this task force is extremely professional. You know, and I'm not saying that they wouldn't put out something professional, but if you have a professional doing the work instead of calling on parents to do marketing for us, like I'd be concerned about the result of what, you know, that output would be.
Well, it would help them go faster with their facilitation.
Yeah, but they can come up with the ideas and then the marketing person can, you know, run with it and do their job. So I completely agree. I've always felt that we need a marketing person.
When you talk about, and I mentioned this to somebody, conversation we were talking.
His head is spinning.
It was 3 weeks ago.
There are organizations out there, I can't think what they're called, there's an organization I know where you send them what you want to be put out on social media, how you want it to be put out, wherever it is, and you send them the information and they make it look nice. You know, they just do, and I can look at something like that too. I don't think that's what you're looking for though. I don't.
No, because you still need the person doing the
You
work.
still need the,
Yeah.
you still need the person sending it to that
I mean,
organization.
that's half.
That's what I mean, I don't think
Yes.
that's what you're looking for then.
And I think it, you know, it could be a resource for teachers and, you know, the other folks within the community to be able to call on to somebody and say, hey, we're doing this really awesome thing in our classroom this week. Put it out there. We've got pictures.
Or come take the pictures.
Or come take the pictures, whatever it is. Or how do you see us package this up and get it out in the best way?
So on,
We need a unicorn.
I'm not. So I know what direction are you thinking about with this market, communication market, because I think you're talking about to get someone, and I have no idea what that price would be, but that would not be I don't know what that price would be. And I'm not sure if it's a full-time or a half, you mentioned a half, I mean, I don't.
Well, I know that the county's PIO is about an $80,000 position. I think we could probably get a specialist for less than that. I hadn't really thought about a part-time, and it's a compelling argument to keep the assistant principal, which I think is why we've kept the assistant principal with 3 superintendents when we've asked about this. But I wonder if there's a different position that we could be looking at. You know, if it's do we need 2 counselors? Can one of those be transition that budget line item in a different way? I mean, I just think we need to maybe think outside of just this position is the one to shift.
And my thing is, just thinking out loud here, my kids have gone to the school in both eras when there was 2 vice principals and 1 principal, and also 1 principal for high school and 1 principal for middle school. So that was minus 1 admin. And in my personal opinion, it worked really well when there was 1 principal for middle school and 1 principal for high school.
I agree.
And, you know, and that was, how many students have we lost since, and this would have been like 2018? So we've lost 60, 70, 80 students, and we gained an admin, you know? So I just question the need for 3 high-level admin for the amount of students that we agree.
If I can just, I have a clarification. There's a high school principal, middle school principal. Was there a separate AD then too, or an AD was?
Yeah, I think it was a teacher that also was in.
That's what I figured or something.
I don't think he was even 0.5.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was really good.
Sampling period that was.
He responded to emails, and I coached when he.
Well, I just need to know, because if
He was
you know, I mean,
very.
I think, sorry about that, yeah.
I'm just saying, it's possible.
Yeah.
And there was way more students at that time than there are now.
And I think we were here So it had to have been 2019, 2020 at the
And
or 2021 was the, when we moved away.
I think it was 2020 because my understanding is that both principals resigned and then Gould got hired as the one principal. Retired, both principals retired.
Well, I think Marcy makes a good point. I mean, when my kiddos were going to school, we had 5,000 more kids, just kidding. So, but we had the one principal for middle school and the one principal for high school. And from the 6th to 7th grader perspective, it was really good for them because
It
they
was.
knew exactly what the separation was. Here, it's kind of kludgy.
And I feel like they had a really tight connection
Yeah,
with
their,
person, yeah.
right. They were a leader.
I mean, I think our challenge on that front is that we've hired a middle school, high school principal.
Yes.
And so I don't really think we can be like, remember that job we hired you for? We're totally not doing that anymore. I don't think we can do that. So I think we might have missed our window on that one.
Now, at the same time, there could be other positions that people leave yet, and you could look at depending on the need, you know what I mean, a combination type role there. Am I accurate saying that? Possibly, I don't, and I don't know if it's gonna leave
I'm not
you.
admitting to anything.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying there could be that possibility. I'm just I don't know that for a fact either. I don't know if anyone else will leave, and I don't know if someone does leave, well, we have to have that, you know what I mean, just based on.
And I feel like we had that conversation last year.
For the last 2 years.
And then it just happened and then we
We're like, wait.
we just moved forward.
I do think too, assistant principals is overkill.
I also think though, if you look at, if we had a high school principal, middle school principal, so now we have a principal, but we also don't, I guess it gets murky.
I think in
It gets murky.
2020, it became, so instead of two principals, it was a principal and a vice principal.
Full-time vice principal probably.
And Corey came in as the AD.
Yep.
Full-time.
That's exactly how it was.
Oh,
And then that is how we transitioned to two
yeah,
vice principals. So it was like a slow moving bullet. I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe we do have to wait for some attrition to happen, because it does sound like we've got a job that has changed for the person in the job, not necessarily the job that we need.
Right.
To have filled, and maybe we just need to wait.
on any changes, you mean that way, and go forward with an assistant principal?
Maybe
I think at this time, and I told you that's how I felt. I just think at this time, and I know it's the same thing the last three superintendents have told you. The last two superintendents have told you too, so I understand that.
Can we make a note that if this happens, can we revisit?
I mean, I just
We
think
can
maybe
adjust our budget at any time during the year.
absolutely we can, and I mean,
Yeah.
I would think that in any admin position, we should be looking at just to make sure, that we need it, that it's right sized for our district, it's paid right, and it's see a need,
Right.
fill a need, and maybe we just need to have
It may need to be
a little bit
evaluated,
more on that. As
at the end
those
of next
come-
year.
Yeah, and as those kind of naturally change, maybe that is an opportunity that we can kind of plug this conversation back in, because I also understand that the horse is kind of out. And I don't want to do anything to like really upset that piece, but I think we are really working in a really difficult position and expecting school board to cover it, expecting other people who are tapped to cover it has proven ineffective. And so we should try something different. So maybe it is put a note in and we just assess when kind of office admin positions become available, if that is one that we could shift before we just backfill.
I can put that in my notes to the new superintendent.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
So does that mean we're not looking at communications marketing at all? that just drops because we're waiting?
And we don't have any money.
My
I
thought
don't think
with
that's a
that-
solution.
My thought with that, Carrie, would be, and I still believe that we need to look at if, and I don't know if this is an answer either, but if there's another position that opens up, that we can, that the amount of students enrolled in the courses, whatever the case is, that is a potential change there. I'm just throwing that out. I don't know if that's an answer. I mean, it's an option. I'm not saying it's a good option. But I do believe, and I would agree with everything everyone said about, we do need, communication marketing. I do believe there's some things that all staff can do, but going back to what you said, or they trained out, but it's not too much to ask all staff to put something on social media once a week. That's not too much to ask. And I'll say that to anybody, anytime.
I mean, maybe that is a good kind of interim solution, is to think about that. I know a lot of other districts have that as job requirement, that you absolutely have to do that. And maybe that's our gap filling.
It takes a minute to do that. I mean, I'm exaggerating possibly, but.
Well, I think that's all fine and good, but the one point person would have a better outreach and a way to get the outreach, and would have, what's the point in having a teacher do it if it doesn't get to anybody?
Exactly, and I not disagree with you.
I think it's a good idea. I don't think we're in the position to move forward right now, financially. Maybe we revisit it in October or something, I'm not sure.
So Kristen, can you make a note in your world that the next opportunity for that we do a shift to a communications marketing possibility? That's something that we can agree to here?
Depending on that position and what the,
Right,
you know what I mean,
right, yeah.
the need.
Right. Well, of course, not like the next position that comes up.
Do we
It has
have
to
marketing
make sense.
dollars budgeted for this next year?
I can look
If we
that
don't, we
for-
can change our
I will look that up for you. I'll look that up.
Okay, I didn't notice it, but.
I don't know.
I want to say there was
Same.
5,000.
Is this assistant principal role the same for both? Or would you say that they're, I think that they're different because I think only one is doing all of the testing. And we've talked about that moving to counselor.
Correct.
So
They're two different roles.
And our counselors are both new to school counseling. They've not been school counselors before, which is which is
that will have a
learning curve.
transition.
They will have a transition, what I'm trying to say, yes, thank you.
I'm just wondering what that other role looks like, and is it really a middle school, high school role, or is it a district role? Because it sounds like they're touching sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, tenth grade.
Yeah, it's district.
They're driving buses, I don't know, like,
You're talking about the role that is currently filled.
yes. Like, is it in the right place?
It's in
So
the
that
right
when that
place because
one-
it serves those students.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because this one looks like
But if you
it's
look
got
at,
the special education, or is that only 9 through 12? So is the other.
What are you
7 and 8?
looking at?
I am looking at the proposed assistant principal role
this is what I got.
on
from-
the communication marketing cover sheet.
Yeah. This is like, just going through that, the Clicker connects everyone, Youth Connections everyone, Clicker Go Cards everyone. I mean, there's a significant amount of stuff here that is everyone. When you start talking about, I'd say most of that stuff is most of that stuff is everyone.
Except the testing.
And testing would be 6 through 10, depending on what testing you're talking about. For example, AP testing is obviously high school, NWA is middle school, high school.
But that's
CMAS
all
is middle school, high school.
Falling on one person.
Yes.
Okay.
Or predominantly, yeah, I'd say that she's in charge of that.
All right, let me beat that horse. What's
Yeah.
next?
I will plan to move forward with AP and then we will continue looking at marketing. I think that I'll check out the budget for marketing as well. I think that's
Okay.
important for you to know, because I do believe that is an essential aspect of it.
Now we're looking at
Thank you.
policy,
All right.
E1, Title IX policy, second read. I don't think we had any messages from the community. How about ACR-3? Do we have any feedback there? Does anybody want to discuss these? Second read, so. All right.
No, but I do have a unrelated question before we move to future agenda items, if I may. As thinking about our superintendent interviews, I want to talk about it a little bit, only because I don't want it to be awkward with in-person, virtual, who is, who isn't. I think it's weird if 3 of you are in a meeting and 2 of us are virtual and the candidate is virtual. So I just kind of wanted to understand what everybody's thoughts were. I know I'm not the only one who has a job. And so I just am wondering if it makes sense for us all to be virtual, if it makes sense for us all to be in person. All in person every day this week is very challenging for me. And if we're Zooming anyway, I think it might make sense that we're all on Zoom, but I wanted to ask.
It's a great question, because that's what I was gonna ask.
It's a great question.
Yes. So you are always, yeah. We are set up that we can do the whole, but it gets very complicated, because with Google Meet, we cannot like hold people out. So we have different codes for each
Okay.
person. So we can do Zoom, but you would need to hop on a different meeting every 30 minutes. I know Erica is out tomorrow, right, for meetings?
Monday, I'm not here at the business meeting.
Okay,
I'm here
okay,
this week.
excellent.
I'm challenged enough with Zoom. I don't think I would be okay doing those. But, you know, I mean, to each his own. I mean, I think we can all do what we want to do, right?
Well, I just think it's very awkward if I'm online and everyone else is in the room. I think that's awkward for me. I think it's awkward for you. I think it's awkward for our candidate. I think we look disjointed. I just don't think it's our best foot forward.
Yeah, and I think it makes it's hard for those that are on Zoom, it's hard to hear the people talking in the room. Like it's very muffled. And so I know, when we've done it in the past where it's fixed, it almost seems like it would be better that we're all on Zoom on our own camera, because then it's clearer when people are speaking.
How does that work for you as our technology lead tomorrow?
So here's all I need to know is if you're not gonna be in person, I need to send you all 8 links. And I'm gonna ask for some grace because there's 5 minutes between each interview, and I have to set a recording, stop a recording, get on a new link, and start a new recording in 5 minutes. So you will have to be.
Well, was everybody else able to be in person and it's just me?
I plan on being in person.
Hard time. You did. You guys all did? All right. I'll just.
They will all be recorded as well, so.
We can make it work.
Yeah.
If you wanna be.
Well, we don't need to make it work for me. I can make it work for you. I'll just figure that out on my own. Thanks. That was my only question.
I do want to ask that everyone be in the room or virtual by 1:45 so that we can be ready to start and bring the candidate in at 2.
Yes. I can't control blood blasting,
Yeah.
man.
And then on Thursday, likewise, we would all start at 8:45, or be together so that we can start promptly at 9. Who would like to meet with me in June? Erica?
Is it my turn? Do you know when it will be?
We can work around your schedule.
It'll be accelerated because we're doing the.
We're doing both
Yeah.
meetings together, but But we plan for both in the one meeting, so.
Lori will check my schedule and then throw out some dates and then you can say what works, doesn't work and things like that.
If you want to reach out to Erica first, because my schedule's usually pretty, bump things easier. All right, thank you all, ladies.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Flanagan.
Yes.
Kate. Yes. King.
Yes.
McHugh.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna do this hurricane, okay?
Hitchhiker kid bus ad. I like it.
The kid's gonna be out there.
Can I you know,
Can you
maybe-
see that?
No, I can't. It's just like I said, the kid driving the bus. That's probably not the best idea. It's probably a better idea, Carrie.
Bye, guys.
Let's see, Marcy, have a good